Good morning and welcome to the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors meeting for December 10th, 2018. You please rise if you can for the pledge. CAO Mr. Lutz, can you please lead us?
Let's begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Announcements. Madam Clerk.
This is a time for board members and county staff to provide updates of upcoming county events that may be of interest to the public.
Is there any member of the board that has an announcement this morning? Seeing none. Staff. Is there a staff member with an announcement? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item. Recognition and acknowledgments.
Item 1 is from the Clerk of the Board of Supervisors to adopt a proclamation recognizing the service of Supervisor Michael C. Oliveira to the residents of Calaveras County.
Supervisor Garamendi, I believe you have this proclamation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and it is my pleasure to read this proclamation today for a gentleman who I've spent the last 2 years sitting next to and working with, and someone who I really appreciated their service to our community. So, with no further ado, I'm reading a proclamation recognizing Michael C. Oliveira's 4 years of service to the residents of Calaveras County. Whereas Mike was elected to serve the residents of Calaveras County in 2014 as a representative of District 3, attending his first meeting as supervisor on January 13, 2015. And whereas Mike has taken on many issues within his district, the county, and the state, and even the nation, serving on many boards and task forces such as the California State Association of Counties, the National Association of Counties, and the Governor's Task Force on Tree Mortality. And whereas throughout his term, Mike drew upon his longstanding knowledge of law enforcement and the Highway 4 corridor to make decisions on behalf of his constituents regarding issues such as public safety, road maintenance, and snow removal matters. And whereas Mike took great pride in representing Calaveras County, provided unwavering support to the county staff, and modeled professionalism and civility throughout his tenure. And whereas throughout his term, Mike has demonstrated a willingness to champion causes he believes in, no matter how pressured the situation may be. Now be it proclaimed that the county... excuse me.
Wait. Yeah. Is there any board member comments? Supervisor Mills.
Yes, I'd like to thank Mr. Oliveira for his service to his community and to the residents of Calaveras County. I know that it's been a very tumultuous period, but at the same time, I think you've weathered a storm well and served your constituents well, as your ability gave, your background and your ability gave you the willingness to do that. So thank you for your time that you've taken from your life to represent your community.
Thank you. Anyone else?
If I could add, I would just want to thank Mike very much for his friendship over his last 2 years and the help that you provided to during the Butte fire and our recovery for my district. Thank you very much.
Mike, it's been a pleasure working with you on this board and other committee boards that we sit on together. It's been a real pleasure seeing you do your job and how you do it and you tackle it. And the friendship that we came between us over the course of time the past 2 years here, I will remember it for a long time. So thank you so much for your service. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Mike. I was the longest serving person with you on the board. I had an extra month or so with you, and it was a joy. And I'll always remember it. I did enjoy being with you and with the board. It was a pleasure. And thank you for your time and serving with me.
And with that, we'll open up to public comments. Public comments.
Morning, Board, Chair, Sheriff DiBasilio. Mike, I want to say thank you for your service to the Sheriff's Office. while I worked with you during that time, and it gave you a very good perspective sitting on that board of what law enforcement goes through with your background in law enforcement. I think it assisted us tremendously. I worked a few projects with you up in the Highway 4 corridor, so I appreciate your service, and if there's anything I can do for you, let me know. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Santa came, so there's a gift. But I want to let you know, Mike, I was so pissed off on you a couple years ago when you voted Edson in for the second year. I didn't know I'd ever get over it. But watching you for the past couple years since then, I've come to appreciate your fairness and your even-handedness, and you've gained my respect. So I thank you. And Santa has an appropriate gift. Military and this place.
Thank you.
And I'd just like to say, I'll miss seeing you, and thank you for the time that you gave me. I'm going to leave these here.
I'd like to thank you for your service as well. I was sick in bed at the last meeting, and it struck me, your remarks during supervisor announcements. You said basically that if we don't start communicating with each other, we're doomed as a community. And I know that there's been a lot of nasty back and forth. I want to take responsibility for when I did not behave as I would have liked. I forgot my manners or, set them aside during rough political fights. So I thank you for your service. I also think that it's really important, in order for all sides to communicate, that we start from a place of honesty. And I found that there was a tremendous amount of dishonesty that was emanating from people who supported your campaign. And I just would like for us to be able to sit down going forward, all of us. I hope you stay involved. I hope to see you at weekly meetings if you're able. And I hope that we can all sit down in a nonpartisan, compassionate place to try to heal the divide that is happening in our community. Many of us want nothing but a safe community, a prosperous place for our children to grow, for our grandchildren to grow. We don't want to pollute the environment. We want to maintain the forests. So please stay involved. I hope to see you and help us going forward to reach some kind of an accord so that this county can be a safe place for everybody who lives here. Thank you.
Public comments.
Alsa Gala, Taxpayer Association. I'd like to express my appreciation to Michael. And, two main things. One, he's really solid in support of our Constitution. We need that today. And number two, he's developed communication skills. In addition to integrity, I've never heard Michael say a bad thing about anybody. And even suggests that those who oppose him are dishonest. It's amazing that to experience that today in today's political environment. So Michael, the Taxpayer Association is really grateful for what you've done for our county and what you're set up for the future. Thank you.
I want to thank you, Mike, for the service you have given of your life and invested in all of us. And I truly respect your law enforcement background. And I believe that law enforcement is very important. And you added a unique aspect to that, to us, and I thank you for it. And Clyde, thank you for your service also. You weathered a tremendous storm, and I was very proud of how you stood up to it, and you're still standing, and thank you for that. And go Trump.
Other public comments?
Mr. Oliveira, thank you. We haven't always seen things eye to eye, but you have always been honest. And a lot of these things have already been said. Ditto. That's about all I can say. But thank you for your service. I hope you do stay involved. And like Ms. Wicki said, I hope you can help to bring two sides to at least a meeting ground. You're a good man. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
George Fry. Good morning, Board. Michael, you're an amazing guy. I wasn't one of your favorite people in the beginning because of the last board and some of the stuff that went on. But you certainly have rise to the occasion. I want to thank you for your Marine Corps services. I want to thank you for your retirement from the police department in the Bay Area. And I want to thank you for digging in and doing the kinds of things that you have done since you've been on the board. I'm sad that you're leaving. You're probably, in my humble opinion, the best chair that I've seen in over 20 years in board meetings. You treated each and every person with respect, and that's what you got in return. And I thank you very much for your service, Michael.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll close public comment, bring it back to the board. I think it's CAO. Tim, you have a few words to say?
Yes, I just wanted to add to both from the public comment side as a resident of District 3, but also from staff perspective, I want to thank you for, I always felt that you worked hard to represent your constituents. From a staff perspective, I appreciate that I most always know where you're coming from. You're always direct and honest. But most importantly, even if you have a strong opinion on something, you're willing to listen, to consider, and importantly, to support staff. I feel there's a tremendous loyalty with you that you will defend staff, even if they make mistakes, which is certainly something that we need because everybody's human, everybody makes mistakes. It's how we learn from those, and thank you for being supportive of county staff.
Thank you, Tim.
Megan?
Just to echo what everybody here has said, it truly has been an honor and a privilege to work with you, Mike. I know you and I haven't always seen eye to eye through the last 4 years, but I think that's pretty standard when you deal with council. Just to echo, it's been truly a privilege getting to know you, becoming a friend, and I look forward to continuing to interact with you and see how you stay involved in the community. So thank you for all of the service that you've done.
Thank you,
Madam Clerk? No? Okay. Supervisor Garamendi, you want
You want to vote?
to? Yes. So, do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion by Supervisor Garamendi.
I'll second it.
A second by Supervisor Clapp. All for a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
One abstention.
4-0 with 1 abstention.
Had to make it complex, Mike. Now, be it proclaimed that Calaveras County Board of Supervisors hereby recognizes Michael C. Oliveira for his dedication and public service during his tenure on the Board of Supervisors, passed and adopted by the Board of Supervisors of the County of Calaveras, State of California, this 18th day of December, 2018. Thank you again, Mayor.
Mr. Chair, could I take a moment?
You can take it, absolutely.
Rest of the day if you want.
Oh. This is a little hard for me, folks, believe it or not, but I want to thank everybody in the county. I've made a lot of friends. A lot of good friends. But I especially want to thank one person. It's my wife, Jennifer. She has gone through campaigns and 4 years of sitting up here, been like a rock in the public. Sometimes in our private conversations, once again, we agreed not to disagree or agree. She's been very supportive. To the staff of Calaveras County, you've done the best job you possibly can for what we've given you. I would hope that improves. To this board, it's been a pleasure serving with you. It was a pleasure serving on a prior board. And I want to assure you that I am not going anywhere. I am a part of this community, and I will continue to be a part of this community. I want to thank you, everybody. You people are stellar. Thank you for letting me represent you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And with that, can we come down front here? I think the whole board can come down here.
You're not quite the little kids with the chickens, but
I know.
chickens.
I'm the shortest guy. Thank you, guys. Thank you, folks.
Item 2 is from the Clerk of the Board of Supervisors to adopt a proclamation recognizing the service of Supervisor Clyde Clapp to the residents of Calaveras County.
Supervisor Mills, I believe you have this.
I do, Chair. Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to recognize Clyde Clapp's service to the residents of Calaveras County. It says in it, whereas Clyde was elected to serve as District 5 Supervisor in 2016, attending his first meeting as Supervisor on December 13th of 2016, and whereas Clyde represented the county on multiple committees and commissions, including but not limited to Area 12 Agency on Aging, Central Sierra Resources Conservation and Development, and Hardwood Advisory Committee, and whereas throughout his term, Clyde drew on his experience as a contractor, landlord, and businessman to make decisions on behalf of the residents of his district and the county. And whereas Clyde took pride in representing Calaveras County, drew upon his passion and convictions, and was not afraid to express himself bluntly, often giving rise to spirited debate. And whereas throughout his term, Clyde has demonstrated a willingness to champion causes he believes in, no matter how pressured the situation may be. I'd like to add to it that you came in at a time of a recall. And so the tumultuous nature of District 5 is there. We have served together on this board for now nearly 2 years. And it has not been always an easy time, but I think that you had clarity and purpose. You had clarity in your decisions of what you thought was right for the county, and you stuck with those. And I appreciate your willingness to express and to defend your decisions and how you felt the county is to be best represented. And I thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Any other board comments? Supervisor Oliveira.
Supervisor Clapp, we've had our moments, but they were good moments and bad moments. But we've always maintained the respect of our positions as Board of Supervisors. Good luck in your endeavors. I know I'm feeling somewhat what you're probably feeling now, but I think things are going to get better. And I think that's up to you and me and as leading this board. And I think you'll have the same interest in making sure that we can do exactly what we taught or what we said we were going to do, and that's talk to each other and go forward. We have to be part of that process, not as board members, but as citizens of this community. So good luck, Clyde.
Thank you.
Well, Clyde, I've known you for many years. You sat out front of the bakery for many years, solving all the crimes, all the problems of the county with your group. You sat here in board meetings for many years, and for the last 2 years, you have had the opportunity to put some of those things to solve the issues that you see in your district and in the county. And I'll tell you, it's been a pleasure working with you over the course of the last couple years. You felt strong in many issues, and you hung strong when you felt you was the benefit for your district and the county itself. And I appreciate that in you, those qualities in you. So I hope to see you. I know I'll see you somewhere at the Terrace Shopping Center when I visit over there and around town. So stay involved as you did before. I know the bakery's no longer open there, but Common Grounds is there, and you see you out front there many times. So thank you for your work here at the county and the Board of Supervisors.
Thanks.
And with that, we'll open it up to public comments. Any public comments?
Mr. Clapp, how are you doing today?
Well, thank you.
Good. I know we've had some agreements, and the old saying, we can agree to disagree. But being now a formally elected official, I can say thank you very much for putting yourself out there in front of everybody to do the job that you've done.
Thank you.
It takes a lot, and for the people that have never been in an elected position, it's a tough position. It takes a lot out of you and your family. So I thank you very much for your service. And again, I know we've agreed to disagree on a few things, and we have agreed on a lot. But I appreciate your service to this county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other public comments?
House of Gala Taxpayer Association. I too would like to thank you, Clyde, for your service to our county. And one of the things that stood out to us was your integrity. And we could, when you say something, we can believe to be the truth. At least the truth is you see it. And also, you've done more than just be a supervisor. You also supported something new in our state called the State of Jefferson. And we believe that that is a good thing, and that'll help rural counties down the road. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Vicki Reinke. I too want to thank you, Clyde, for your service. I know you were only on the board a couple years, but I think as citizens we appreciate honesty and directness, and you always knew where you stood. And getting to know you, I think you're a great person. Like I say, with honesty and integrity. And I want to thank you for the time that you were on the board, and I'm looking forward to hopefully working on some other projects in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Susan Morse. I just want to thank Clyde also, and also Mike. Directing to Clyde now, I appreciate, and dittoing what the other one said, that Clyde, in my mind, is how do they say it, a man of his word. He means what he says, and he says what he means. And that's very important to me, because you can always count on that. Now, you can disagree or agree, but at least you know where Supervisor Clapp was coming from. And as a resident here, it's very appreciative. And I've come to know Clyde too, as I have with some of the others, and his integrity is impeccable. And a lot of stuff that had been gone on in the past and has been brought up behind the scenes, I have personally checked it out myself, and it wasn't quite the way it was represented in the public. And I just want to say, Clyde, thank you very much for your representation to all of us in this county, and also for stepping up and standing up for integrity, because I think that's what we all need in our county. We can differ in issues, but we all need to work together. As many of all of us said, this is our community. Each one of you represent different parts of the community, but as a whole, it's still Calaveras County. So thank you, and thank the others, and Merry Christmas to all of you too.
I got mixed up about who I was supposed to be talking to last time, so
You talked about Mike this time.
What? Whatever. I'll thank you again, Mike, for your service and calling it from where you came from. And again, I would like to say thank you to Clyde, because he stood up for something that I feel really strongly about. I know that we all have to make our own decisions about drugs, but he stood up for the ban, and I really, really appreciate it. He didn't turn or buckle or anything, and I can't thank you enough.
Oh, look, Stan even has a present for Clyde. This is given with my feelings, and read between the lines. It's not a bomb.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Is it coal?
Sheriff, do you have a dog to sniff?
I do. Yeah, two.
Oh, you can open your gifts now, by the way. Don't be shy.
Well, as a recent resident of D5, we have definitely not seen eye to eye on a lot. I was displaced by the Butte fire, and my only option was to buy a home in Rancho. At least that seemed like the only option at the time. You have reached across the aisle, encouraging me to try to get a seat on the Area 12. I didn't follow through with that because, quite frankly, the ban has depleted all of my resources. And it's been a real struggle. I know that you feel like you got elected on the ban ticket. Others said that you really got elected on the going to get cannabis out of residential areas. I wish you well. I wish that we all could have come together and had more of a compromise, because I just, so many of my friends and family and my whole neighborhood in D2, they're homeless on their land. You know, like if we had been able to put the cannabis issue to bed in the first year, if you wanted your ban, and focused on a rebuilding, that would have meant something to the people that are still displaced and being cited for camping on their burned land. I'm deeply disappointed in how little we got done over these 2 years towards the rebuilding. You know, in Butte County, after a large fire, before the Camp Fire, that Board of Supervisors decided to waive all fees for rebuilding. That the building department was instructed to try to be an enterprise fund was completely inappropriate during a rebuild. And I wish that I could just, you know, toe the line here and be like, attaboy, Clyde. But what the majority of the board did to the survivors of the Butte Fire was not okay. Moving forward, we have to get people in their houses. We have to help people recover. I'm lucky that I have a roof over my head because I was able to settle with PG&E. But the trauma is still there. Many of us are hanging on by our fingertips because of the partisanship that was in this body, the bullying that went on. And I assure you, I felt very bullied by 3 of you. Thank you.
Other public comments? Seeing none, bring it back. Staff, comments?
Well, I just want to say thank you, Clyde. One, that you were very consistent, and I always knew where you were coming from, which from a county administrative office perspective is very much appreciated. And also that you consistently had a very strong, unwavering support for the administrative office and the position of CIO, which again, I appreciate. It makes my job easier. Although I'm not going to be here, I certainly am sure that the office will miss Zoe running through, and she was always the easiest one to get along with at any given time, and I certainly will miss Zoe as well. Hopefully she'll grace these halls still once in a while. So again, I wish you the best moving forward, and thank you for your service to the county.
Thank you. I think Zoe will be more missed than I will.
All right, with that said.
And I'd like to thank...
Oh, I'm sorry. Megan?
Clyde, I just wanted to say thank you. I know you came onto this board a couple years ago, and this county has seen a very difficult couple of years. And as you all know, it is incredibly difficult to sit up on this dais and endure public scrutiny and criticism. And I just wanted to, it is a very difficult job. And I just wanted to say thank you for being here. Thank you for participating. Thank you for being consistent. And thank you for your time and service to the county.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank the board, because I think we had a lot of great things that happened. I think the TOT was excellent. I'd like to thank Jack and Gary on that. And on the band, I'd like to thank Gary and Dennis on that. I think those were 2 things that was the most important things that probably happened in the last 2 years. And I think the TOT will be appreciated for the next 10 years, probably. So I was real grateful that as a board we were able to work on getting that done, and I was very pleased with it. It made my time here worthwhile, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed working with pretty much with the whole board. I enjoyed it. We had our ups and downs. It was amazing that sometimes we'd be on one side and the next time we'd be on the other side. And I did enjoy that, and I'll always remember it. Thanks again.
that, I'll look for a motion. Supervisor Mills,
Yes, I'll move the motion.
do I have a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion by Supervisor Mills, second by Supervisor Oliveira. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Do you abstain from this vote? You do. 4-0 with one abstention.
Now be it proclaimed that the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors hereby recognizes Clyde Clapp for his dedication and public service to Calaveras County during his tenure on the Board of Supervisors, passed and adopted by the Board of Supervisors of the County of Calaveras, State of California, this 18th day of December, 2018.
Clyde.
There you go. You're welcome. Push in.
This is the one who's first, and then
Yeah, and then Kevin. Okay. Ready?
hold on 1 second. You hold it down here. All right, now. All right, move on to item number 3. Madam Clerk.
Item number 3 is from the Administrative Office to adopt a proclamation honoring Timothy W. Lutz for his outstanding service to the residents of Calaveras County.
Supervisor Oliveira, I believe you have this one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a proclamation recognizing Timothy W. Lutz for his outstanding service to Calaveras County. Whereas on March 7, 2017, the Board of Supervisors unanimously voted to appoint Tim Lutz as the County Administrative Officer, the CAO, with an effective start date of April 1st, 2017, and whereas Tim was a working CAO in every sense of the word, expecting no less of himself than he did of his staff, and never ceasing to work tirelessly on behalf of the county, and whereas during his tenure in Calaveras, Tim oversaw multiple projects that will benefit the county for many years to come, including but not limited to the implementing OpenGov for the streamlining the budget process and providing additional transparency to the public, improving purchasing processes, overseeing beautification projects and much-needed upgrades and maintenance throughout the county facilities, reorganizing the Office of Emergency Services to be proactive and prepared for future emergencies, creating an Office of Economic Development to support new and existing business growth and assist in streamlining the economic development engine of the county. And whereas, when Tim arrived at the county, the administrative office had been working with limited staff for quite some time. So we developed a vision and recruiting plan to bring talented professionals to the county to staff the county needs. Whereas, Tim continued to refine the proposed and final budget hearings, and whereas, Tim skillfully guided the county finances through a time of difficult transition and assisted in setting appropriate budget expectations with an eye towards the future. Whereas Tim was well versed in finance and accounting and consistently carried out his duties with a high level of integrity and work ethics. Mr. Chair.
Any board comments? Supervisor Mills?
Certainly. Tim, you came in at a very difficult time. I think a county in a state of flux. From a CAO's perspective, with limited people and personnel working there, and started to develop that structure that is so necessary to our activity. And also, remember, the budget was right there in your face the minute you walked in the door. And you pulled it together. And I looked at last year's budget book, which I still have, and this year's budget book, and just the transitional changes that have occurred within the budget structure by itself means a lot. It's going to help us as we move forward. You have been a very stabilizing force within the county and our organization, and I hope that as you go forward and do the work that you're going to do from here on in your career, that you'll continue to use this as a guiding principle of what works and what doesn't work. Because I'm sure there's been times you kind of knock your head against the wall and say, why did I do that, or why did that happen? But at the same time, it was, I think, a tremendous learning opportunity for you, and we appreciate you being here and the stability that you brought with your experience and your exposure. So thank you for your time.
Supervisor Oliveira?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tim, you walked into a rattlesnake's nest.
That was being nice.
I'm not. You walked into a rattlesnake's nest, and through your guidance as CAO, your honesty to call the good, the bad, the bad, you gave us a path that we needed to follow. If I was to measure the county's situation when you first came on board and take that same measurement to today, we have improved. And that's because of you. I don't know how to say this other than you have done an outstanding job. Far beyond my expectations, and I'm sure the board would agree that you are an asset to this county. Unfortunately, we're going to lose that asset. It's going to be very difficult to replace you. I wish that I had more input in that decision. But good luck to where you're going. I know it's not going to be new territory for you, but we are going to miss you. This county is going to miss you. Thank you, Tim.
Supervisor Clapp, your light's
Yeah,
on.
I'd like to thank Tim because he always had his door open every Friday. I mean, Gary was always stealing a lot of those Fridays from me. But I appreciate that. You always was a help. You always kept me on track. I enjoyed working with you. I worked close with you. Any project I had was going to do, I always cleared it with you so you knew what I was doing in case someone, you heard something. But I enjoyed your company. I really did as a person. I thought you were great. I still do. And I hope you the very, very best. And thanks just for me getting to know you. Thank you.
Supervisor Garamendi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And Tim, thank you for working with us here. We're in the middle of a recruitment, so I don't want to say just how hard your job actually is, because it might scare people away. But dealing with 5 charming personalities like we get to deal with here on a day-to-day basis, and trying to find the middle ground to keep this county running in place was a Herculean effort. I think you handled it with grace and very difficult times. And I just want to thank you, and I want to wish you and Betsy and your daughters the best in going back down to Tulare County. I know those supervisors down there, so we'll keep an eye on you even when you're in the South Valley. But thank you for coming up and really throwing your shoulder to it and gracefully managing a often difficult set of circumstances. Thank you.
I'm going to hold off until after public comments. I may have a lengthy spill here to go, so we'll wait and see. At this time, I'll open up to public comments.
Damn you. That's all I got to say. You've done a fantastic job in the short time that you were here. I've really enjoyed working with you. I think you've got this county back on a good direction. And I know with Manny's guidance, we will continue to do that. I worked with Manny before. He was fantastic also, and I wish he would stay. But I know he's coming out of retirement, hopefully, to help us out. But I wish you well in your endeavors. And again, thank you very much for what you did for the sheriff's office and for the county as a whole. I think you've brought a new light. That outside perspective, I think, was probably what this county really needed. And you did a fantastic job. So thank you very much.
Dang it. So I do want to thank you for all your support. You definitely, HR is a necessary evil. A lot of times we have to do things people don't want to hear, don't like. Legislature passes new laws. We have a list longer than you can imagine going to affect the first of the year. And you were definitely supportive of HR. You helped with technology. Thank you for helping us with getting NeoGov. That will be up and running the first of the year. I think that will make a huge difference in recruitment, in performance management, in onboarding. And we will be making great strides thanks to the efforts that you brought to this county. So thank you. You are going to be missed.
Good morning, Kristen Brinks, Health and Human Services. I just wanted to say also and echo everything everyone said. It was a true pleasure working with you. Under your leadership, we are in a much stronger place in terms of many of our centralized policies and procedures. And as working with not only just you, but your office, your team is tremendous. And I really have enjoyed working with you, and I will likely continue to see you now, though.
Thank you for looking out for all of us. I was very impressed with your professionalism. And a lot of times in Calaveras County and the mountain counties, people do things from the seat of their pants. And you definitely added a sharpness and expertise that we normally don't get, I don't think. And so thank you so much.
House of Gallup Taxpayer Association. Well, Tim, I wish you could stay. You've done good work. One of the things that has not been mentioned is your skills in bringing people together and swimming in the right direction, in the same direction. This is really great because when the departments work in harmony, good results happen to the taxpayer. And I think that the good you've done for this county and the taxpayer is going to last long after you're gone. And so, and there's another thing, very seldom do you find public officials willing to admit they made a mistake on something. And you do. In the rare occasions when you make a mistake, you admit it and get it corrected and don't try to hide it. Well, that's called honesty. And that is another attribute that you have, and we appreciate. Thank you.
You know, I was wrong once, but I was mistaken. So anyway, I never got to know you very well, Mr. Lutz, but, oh, Santa brought you something, by the way.
That's mouthwash.
Don't guzzle it now. But this gave me also an opportunity to thank you and remind you that you're getting out alive. Not all of us do. You're getting out before you can be blamed for everything. And that's another point in your favor. But I'd also like to take this opportunity to honor somebody who's been able to fend off numerous attacks by a goofball with a psychotic laugh that scares the hell out of me. But Megan, you have held up under, I think, abuse and insults. And it's not all been from the public. And some members of this board have not treated you with the total respect I think you warrant. But Santa brought you also another guzzler.
She might be full.
Any other public comments?
George Fry. Tim, it's amazing what you've done in the short period of time you've been here. I consider you a friend. I think you're making the right move. It's unfortunate that we can't keep young people here. But in terms of your family, I don't think there's any other move to make. I wish that I could have spent a lot more time with my son, even though I did spend a lot of time with him. Kids grow up so fast. I mean, in no time at all. But I want to thank you for your service to our county. Thank you, Tim.
Any other public comments? Seeing none, I'll bring it back. Megan, you have a few words you would like to say.
Yeah, just a couple. I just wanted to say thank you, Tim. You know, it's been a challenging couple of years. And, you know, the CAO and council, we work so close, you know, day to day. And it's truly been an honor working with you. The level of integrity and the level of honesty is really, the county is losing a wonderful asset. It's been very nice getting to know you. I consider you a friend. Sorry. And I really hate seeing you go. Yeah, so I'm sure we'll stay in contact. I wish you a wonderful future.
Let's not open those things, right?
Tim, you could always say she started it.
Tim, it's been a long year for both of us, I think, sitting here as chair and the amount of time I spent working with you. I want to echo a lot of things that were said here. You've done a lot of good things for the county since short time that you've been here. Working with you on agenda items and through issues that seem to be arise at least sometimes daily, sometimes more than that. There seems to be a crisis and you're there to handle it all the time. You and Megan working as a team has been great for the county. I always look forward to the agenda review meetings and our discussions afterwards on issues that we're facing in the county. And I think you tackled them head on. You did a wonderful job. And I too am sad to see you go. I think I've echoed that too. I think, more than just myself, a few other board members. When we made the announcement, it was somewhat of a shock. But I truly understand your decision. In this job as a CAO, being your first time as CAO, I'm sure some of the issues here in Calaveras County, or in that, as far as that goes, any other county, you saw how difficult a job it could be at times. Dealing with, again, 5 wonderful personalities, and staff, and trying to get things accomplished. A lot of times, government, trying to get things accomplished is a long, drawn-out process and a long task. It takes quite a bit of time, but in the short time you've been here, your accomplishments are quite a few. So with that being said, I want to thank you very much. And I would like to say one other thing to what Bonnie had said. I don't agree with her. I think from January 4th going forward, you'll be blamed for everything. So with that said, I'm looking for a motion. Yes, Supervisor Mills.
Well, you're also going to leave here with a certification. We'll provide that to you if necessary to herd cats.
So with that said, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll move the motion.
I will second it.
I have a motion by Supervisor Clapp, a second by Supervisor Mills. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0 with 1 abstention.
That's 6 votes, Mr.
So-
Chair.
You got to read it. You got to read it.
We have to read this.
Got to read it.
Oh, we have to read that. I'm sorry. Let us finish.
Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors hereby expresses its gratitude to Timothy W. Lutz for his exceptional service to Calaveras County and wishes him much happiness as he begins his new chapter in life. Passed and adopted by the Board of Supervisors of the County of Calaveras, State of California, this 18th day of December, 2018.
Do you have your, okay, good.
Mike says he's got his steps in already for today now.
Yeah, I'm over my quota. I'm going to sit next to you.
Squish in.
All right, you're going to have to hold this with one hand, sir.
Thank you.
Are you nervous, Karen?
Normally I have the advantage of being able to jot notes, but since this was about me, I was trying to consistently make eye contact, so I'll do this off the cuff. I just wanted to thank everybody for the wonderful comments. This genuinely, truly was a harder decision to leave than it was to come here. I really appreciate the support that I've had, the continual intellectual challenge of this job. It really has been a tremendous experience that I certainly would never forget or never trade, because I have learned so much, grown so much, lost some more hair and grayed a little more, and I can't even blame my children for that. But I truly do appreciate the support. We have tremendous staff here in Calaveras County. That's something that I will absolutely miss. The department heads who, by and far, truly are working department heads that roll their sleeves up, that are really in the middle of the day-to-day because they have to be, and that's tremendously admirable. I will absolutely view that as the model of a department head anywhere, because of the amount of work and effort that our departments do, and down to our line staff, which I think sets that tone across the county. So although it is very hard to leave, I feel like we have some great assets here. I have a great team in my office. I think with continuing to have that partnership with County Council, Human Resources, all of our key departments, that's how we can continue to progress forward and be collaborative. So again, I feel like if I have to leave, I'm leaving at least with things better than I arrived at, for the office structure, for the staffing, and I look forward to see the continuing great things to happen. So thank you all.
And with that hair loss, I think it was most of it came from pulling your hair out, not naturally. All right, moving on. I'm going to move on to item number 5. I'm going to save number 4 proclamation for last.
Item 5 is from Human Services to adopt a proclamation honoring Connie McLean for 41 years of service to the residents of Calaveras County in the Health and Human Services Agency, Human Services Division, and congratulating her on her retirement.
And Supervisor Clapp, I believe you have this?
I do. Proclamation recommends Connie McLean for 41-year service as part of the Health and Human Service Agency, congratulating her on retirement. Whereas Ms. McLean began her career at Health and Human Services Agency on October 3rd, 1977 as temporary hire and became permanent on November 1, 1977. And whereas Ms. McLean has served as an eligibility worker 1, eligibility worker 2, eligibility worker supervisor, and staff service analyst 2. And whereas Ms. McLean has selflessly dedicated her career in service to the residents of Calaveras County, and whereas Ms. McLean has become invaluable asset to the agency as a mentor and a leader, and whereas once retired, Ms. McLean plans to travel especially to the coast, spending time with family, enjoying activities in the greater outdoors, and just simply relaxing.
So, board comments, Supervisor Mills?
Yes, what a rarity to see someone in today's work world with over 40 years in one agency. That is beyond unusual. Ma'am, you could write a book, literally could write a book with how things have progressed in this county, because you watched it firsthand. So I sincerely appreciate your dedication to, especially in the HHS area, to our county and to the residents of our county, and hope that your retirement is as fulfilling as your work was.
Supervisor Garamendi?
I just want to echo Supervisor Mills's words of praise. 41 years is a wonderful accomplishment, and all the citizens of this county, I think I speak for them in thanking you for your dedication. Literally generations of people you've seen in your work, and I really thank you very, very much, and certainly well-deserved, and enjoy your retirement.
Thank you.
Supervisor Clapp, any comments? No?
I'm just amazed. Where on the coast do you like going?
Central Coast primarily.
Okay.
Yeah.
I used to love Mendocino.
Well, Ms. McLean, 41 years. Wow, that is a long time. And again, like Supervisor Mills said, I bet you can write more than one book. I bet you can, for your retirement, you could probably write one a year and still have more stories to tell. So I want to thank you so much for your dedication to Calaveras County and Human Resources Department. Just a pillar and an anchor in that department. So thank you very, very much on behalf of the board and the residents of Calaveras County for your service. Enjoy your retirement very much.
Thank you.
And Supervisor Oliveira, your light's on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Connie, you sure you want to leave? You've thought about this,
right? It was
right?
a very difficult decision, actually, so.
Okay. Well, take a rest. You've earned it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your 41 years of service.
Thank you.
I hope that there's a plan to replace you with the same caliber and performance of standard of performance that you've exhibited. So that's going to be some big shoes to fill. No offense, but those are big shoes to fill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I make a comment?
Oh, absolutely.
I just want to say that it has been a real honor to work for the County of Calaveras and specifically for Calaveras Health and Human Services Agency. And have been so privileged to be just a small part of our department that provides so many services to the communities in Calaveras County. Thank you.
You're more than welcome. And Kristen, do you need some tissues?
I did that last week at lunch. Kristen Brinks, Health and Human Services. Calaveras County is losing, as a colleague, Connie, but not as a friend. She is deeply ingrained. We adore and love her. But what I'm not sure that this board or the community recognizes is Connie is seen not only as an expert in our benefit programs in Calaveras, but statewide. Connie is fully ingrained in our associations and looked to as a technical expert. And so the state as a whole is losing also that knowledge. But there is no one more professional, kind, ethical, and always with her focus being the residents and the community that she is serving. If you talk to her, the clients are her number one priority, and there's just something about her that is completely irreplaceable. Yes, we are working on a plan and logistically, but man, Connie's an amazing person, and it's just been a true pleasure and honor to work with you, Connie. I already told you all of this, but still. Anyways, just thank you for recognizing her, and you will be very missed.
And with that, we'll open to public comments.
Robin Carter, Program Manager, Health and Human Services. This is going to be hard. Connie, you've trained, supervised, and mentored hundreds of workers over the past 41 years. You've been the go-to Medi-Cal person, not only for Health and Human Services, but for numerous outside agencies and the state, as Kristen has said. I've been fortunate to have worked with you for the past 27 years and have learned a great deal from you. Your knowledge, compassion, and love for our agency will be hard to replace, and you will be deeply missed. Enjoy your retirement, relaxing, traveling, and just staying home. Thank you, Connie, for your dedication.
Any other public comments? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. Does staff have any comments? All right, well, I'm looking for a motion.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Motion by Supervisor Mills, second by Supervisor Clapp. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Congratulations, Connie. Enjoy your time.
Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Board of Supervisors, County of Calaveras County, this 18th day of December 2018, do hereby honor and recognize Connie McLean for her years of service and express their appreciation to Ms. McLean for her loyalty, leadership to the county, Calaveras, and with her much happiness as she begins this new chapter in her life, passed and adopted by the Board of Supervisors of Calaveras County, State of California, this 18th day of December 2018. Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go. Scoot in a little more, Mike. And Jax. There you go. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, let's move on to item number 4.
Item 4 is from the Administrative Office to adopt a proclamation honoring Karen Osborne for her 18 years of dedicated service to the residents of Calaveras County and congratulating her on her retirement.
Karen, can you come up to the podium, please? Karen, we've known each other for a long time, and I've always enjoyed you since you came into admin office. You were always a smile and always enjoyment to talk to. I think you kept that at certain times in that department when there was a lot of gloom going on. Karen always kept a smile on people's face, anybody that came in there. So from the bottom of my heart, I'm sad to see you go. I want to thank you, and we will be a continent apart, apparently. So please, when you come back to visit, or if I'm over there, hopefully I have a place to stay for free. But I will move on. I have this item. I will be reading it with pleasure. This is a proclamation recognizing and honoring Karen Osborne for her 18 years of outstanding service with the County of Calaveras. Whereas Karen Osborne began her career at the Health and Human Services Agency, formerly known as the CalWorks and Human Services Department, on December 4th, 2000, as a clerical assistant 2, where she immediately demonstrated a willingness to go the extra mile along with a strong can-do attitude, and has kept that over the years. And whereas, as a result of her strong work ethic, Karen was promoted to the position of Accountant Clerk 2 with CalWorks and Human Services Department on February 23rd, 2002. And whereas, as a result of her continued dedication to the public service, Karen was promoted once again as an accountant technician to the County Administrative Office, rejoining former County Administrative Officer Shirley Ryan, which she's going to move to Florida to rejoin Shirley, on March 29, 2004. Whereas Karen approached her new position with the same commitment that she had exemplified at CalWorks and Human Services. And whereas on January 25th, 2014, in recognition of her outstanding commitment and work ethic, Karen was promoted to the position of Administrative Assistant 2 with the County Administrative Office. And whereas Karen's dedication to excellence in public service has been continually validated in her ability to address a multiple of complex matters of concern to the county staff and the citizens of Calaveras County, always responding in a timely and professional manner. And whereas, for those who have worked closest with her, have also enjoyed and will greatly miss her extraordinary sense of humor, even during the most challenging of times. And I'll open up the board comments at this time.
Karen, I'm going to miss you. I mean, you've been my neighbor for a long, long time, and so I'll never know what's going on at the place anymore. So I don't know what to say. I don't know what's happening. But anyway, it's been a joy knowing you. I wish you weren't leaving. I wish you'd stay here, but everybody moves on. And it's been a pleasure knowing you. It really has.
And Karen, your sense of humor and your overall demeanor is well recognized, as you've heard, and is appreciated. Even when other people were biting at the heels, you always managed to, find a way to keep it going, keep things moving. And you have a wealth of knowledge and a depth of knowledge of things that have gone on in the administrative office over the years that I don't think it'll be easily replaced, because there's things that you just know, and you're able to pick those out and help things along. And I think that has helped in the progression with our CAO's office as we've moved forward as well. So you will be missed, and we know where Florida is. So enjoy your retirement, and if you do come back, remember this is also always home.
Supervisor Oliveira.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Karen, you're another one I'm going to see leave, and I don't feel like real happy about that. 4 years ago, when I was first elected, I had to make a transition from law enforcement to public official. And you don't know who to turn to because you're the new kid on the block. It's new territory. You were the first person that stepped up and said, "What do you need, Mr. Oliveira?" And I depended on you over the last 4 years so heavily you have no idea. A long time ago, a wise man told me, if you want to know how to do the job, talk to the people that are doing the job, not the people that are in charge. You were one of those people. You helped me out of some troubling times when I fortunately prevented making a fool of myself up here. You're a good friend. I mean, I'm going to miss you. This county's going to miss you. And I want to thank you. Thank you, Karen.
Supervisor Garamendi.
Karen, I want to thank you also, and I want to echo the words that Mike just said, that you're the person who said, what do you need when you come in that office, but probably more important, you were willing to say the things I need to know, which sometimes you don't know the right questions to ask when you first take this job, and you may not know where things are, not where pins are, but where purchasing is, or how these things work, systems, and I want to thank you. Your warm smile and your cheerful personality, but also your very strong intellect in making these things happen. And thank you for all your service to the county.
And with that, we'll open to public comments.
I feel like Karen and I have been together a long time. The first time I met her in the office, she was friendly, she was happy, she was there to ask me what she could do for me, and that happened on several occasions over the past few years. I'm sad once again to see an employee who has earned the right to retire, but I wish wasn't retiring. She's always been there that I've seen with everybody. Thank you, Karen, for your service.
I have darkened this girl's doorway far too many times, and she never locked me out. Very good disposition, very friendly, helpful, and Santa brought you a dozen. Thank you. And I just hope people coming in are as receptive and friendly as the people that are going out. Sometimes we don't always find that to be true, but Karen was always welcoming. Thank you, kiddo.
Other public comments? Staff comments?
Well, when I first started, of course, the county caught on fire, and everybody that was supposed to help me learn the county was putting out a fire. And coming from private sector, things were quite different in government, and Karen was there to answer the million questions that I had, and was just really a shining light. When things are hectic, she smiles, and she's always been calming, and you will be greatly missed. Thank you.
Other public comments? Mr. Moss.
Good morning. Boy, it's really hard to say goodbye to Karen. Going back to the days of my previous life in environmental management, environmental health, I always would come to the office and I would always get the answer I was looking for, whatever it was. I mean, it may not be the answer I wanted, but it was always straight across the bow. And if I had a question, Karen was always able to assist me and answer it. And if for some reason she didn't have the answer, she would find out. That has carried on through the administrative office. I can't tell you how we're going to function as she leaves these halls, because there's many times, and I've been here a long time as well, that I'll come up and say, how do we, oh, that's very easy to do ABC. Well, I'm glad you're here to tell me that. So I would just say that in addition to the professionalism and in addition to being a good friend, Karen's sense of humor many times actually helped see things through as well. And I know that's something that's been very, very good for me to experience. And it's actually been very, very good for the staff and for the whole administrative staff. And to be able to look at something that's very serious and to be able to approach it, get it taken care of, and even with a light heart, will be sorely missed. So I have to say goodbye to her as well, but we know where she's going.
Staff?
Well, I am so distraught at Karen's leaving that I had to leave myself because in all seriousness, though, I do really want to thank you, Karen. I can attest to the chaos when Karen's not in the office, i.e. my first 2 weeks here when Karen was deathly ill at home, and nobody could get me answers for anything because they were all saying we got to wait for Karen to come back because Karen knows, and that is absolutely true. I think it is going to be really hard for the administrative office to adapt. 2004, when you look at the average tenure of anybody in the county administrative office, that is incredible. And in celebrity marriages, it would be like Tom Hanks and Rhea Perlman or somebody that nobody outlasts that 2004 to today. So I think it just speaks to your pleasant disposition, your go with the flow attitude, and that's going to be tremendously missed. And of course, on the fun side, I am going to miss your stationery purchases and the controversies that those create, particularly the visceral reaction to green paper clips that will go down in legend in the office. So thank you, Karen. I've really appreciated your knowledge and your help through the time that I've been here.
Megan?
Oh, Karen. As everybody has said, you've been in administration for as long as I've been here with the county, and so you've always been that historic knowledge, that rock in that office, and you are going to be sorely missed by all of the departments, my office in particular. And thank you for everything that you've done. I'm going to miss you. I'm going to miss your friendship, but don't be a stranger. And congratulations. Retirement is certainly, you deserve it, so enjoy.
So I'm sitting here and I'm thinking 2004. So Brent, Tom, Robert, Lawton, Jeannie Boyce, Shirley, Lori, Tim, and then the interims in between during that time. That's quite a number of people and CAOs to serve, and you survived it all with a smile on your face and a great deposition. And Karen, I will sorely miss you, and you know that. We've been friends for so long, and I could go on, but I won't, because I'll have to use these. So I will not normally do this, but I will make the motion.
I'll second this.
So we have a motion by Supervisor Toffenelli, a second by Supervisor Clapp. So call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors hereby honors and recognizes Karen Osborne for 18 years of outstanding service to the residents of the County of Calaveras, passed and adopted by the Board of Supervisors of the County of Calaveras, State of California, this 18th day of December 2018. Congratulations, Karen.
What are you doing? Clyde's like a floating head back there.
I don't think I read. Karen, there is some fine print on the bottom of that proclamation that you will always have county administrative office know your cell phone number. So before you leave, let's make sure we have it.
Yes, they have it. They can text anytime. And I want to thank everybody that I've worked with. They've been just wonderful over the last 18 years. So, and I'll miss everybody.
Well, we certainly will miss you. Thank you again for your service. And before we move on to the consent agenda, or public comment, excuse me, clerk has asked for a 5-minute break, so we will take a 5-minute break. All right, we're back from break, and we're moving on to the next item on the agenda, the general public comment.
Mr. Chair, could I interrupt for a moment? At the request of Bonnie, when she provided gifts and she asked to open it, I have to mention this. This is a gift of deodorant. But I don't think that's the reason that everybody thinks. A long time ago, when I first seated as a supervisor, Bonnie came up to me and mentioned, "Boy, you use Brute. I haven't smelled that in ages." So the note says, "To Mike O, who wears my favorite man scent from the old days. Enjoy, Bonnie." Thank you.
Well, I saw it and I was wondering what the story.
Well, I did check with Jack and with Dennis to make sure that I didn't really need it.
Nice one.
But
Now I know the source of the man.
All right, moving on. Madam Clerk.
General public comment. Any item of interest to the public that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board and is not posted on the consent or regular agendas may be addressed during the public comment period. California law prohibits the board from taking action on any matter which is not posted on the agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the Board of Supervisors. If public comment is completed before the 30-minute allotted time period, the board may immediately move to the next order of business. If public comment is not completed during the allotted time period, it will be continued as the last item of business in order to provide an opportunity for the remainder of comments to be heard.
That being said, move on to public comments. Any public comments this morning?
Good morning, Joan Wilson, District 1. It's beautiful outside. The weather has been gorgeous. We've had some rain. It's been wonderful. Of course, there's nothing that you guys can do about all that. However, at the risk of being banned in this county for not only cannabis, I'm going to say it anyway. Baby, it's cold outside, especially at night. I have asked about homelessness. Homelessness is a problem, and it's becoming a bigger problem, even here in Calaveras County. I was told to talk to the Office of Emergency Services. I did that. And by them, I was told to talk to the churches. So I called all of the churches in the county. I received one return phone call. I don't think it is somebody else's problem. I think homelessness is our problem. Homelessness is not, and I wish I was here the other week when it was talked about, but homelessness is not always a choice. Sometimes it is forced upon you because of things that happen in your life. Sometimes it's a better option than being bullied, raped, incest, and all of the horrible things that come along with this life and this world. The fact that the churches didn't even return my phone call, I think, is appalling. The fact that the office that has to deal with that passed the buck is appalling. Homelessness is a serious problem, and yes, it's a choice for some people, and that's fine. But for some, it's not. For some, they have been burnt out of their homes, and unfortunately, they have not been able to get back into it. For some, they have been treated very badly by people that they have been told they can trust, be it clergy, be it a teacher, be it an office of the government, be it a relative. It's not the problem of the person that is homeless. It is our problem. It is your problem. I just want to find out, I have been calling everybody. I haven't called my district supervisor because I can't get a return phone call.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Al Segala, Taxpayer Association. I'd like to appreciate the board and especially the handsome fellow that took Jack's place. And I have two items. One of them is having no more major terrible fires. In the Union Democrat, there's a guest opinion from Jerry Baker in the edition of November 23rd. And this is the best guest editorial I've ever read. Basically what he says, these fires were caused by inadequate first strikes. Inadequate first strikes. The first strikes are either too late or not enough retardant. Aircraft is the best way for first strike on a fire, and it should be overwhelming. Can you imagine, even with the additional expense of having the aircraft standing by the way, Mr. Baker recommends 15 large aircraft in California be ready to go for this at the next fire season. It's so simple, and yet it's almost like the emperor calling the little boy calling the emperor naked. From this moment forward, our Taxpayer Association recommends that you do everything you can within your influence with CSAC and other organizations to urge the state to review and improve first strike. Let's have no more major fires. We don't need another paradise. Okay, item 2, the TOT tax was raised. You probably know that. And the consequences for that has some fallout. The TOT tax does not exempt nonprofits or even rehab places where people don't stay longer than 30 days. It needs to do that. It's a minor revision. I think the Board of Supervisors can pass an ordinance to modify that somewhat. There's a Christian camp. It's called Dream Mountain Christian Camp in Murphy's that is hit with this 12%. And it's really hurting them because they're a nonprofit, and it really cuts back on the number of people that they can have in their camp. And the purpose of the camp is not like a motel. It's for training, and it's really religious, but it's nonprofit. So by making an exemption for nonprofits on the TOT tax would be a step forward and would bring some justice in our county. I got 11 seconds. Thank you.
Good morning. Bonnie Newman from Double Springs. I wondered what my last presentation would be this year. I was able to say all I wanted with my gifts, but I have something to share with you. We're looking forward, less than a couple of weeks away. Christmas is coming. We're all going to be spending time with our family, our friends. I'd like to remind you and everybody in this room and on TV land that there are children, thousands of children at the border who will not be spending a happy Christmas. And in their honor, I'm going to sing you a song. Venid fieles todos, a Belén marchemos gozosos, triunfantes y llenos de amor. Cristo ha nacido, Cristo el Rey divino. Venid adoremos, venid adoremos, venid adoremos a nuestro Señor. Feliz Navidad y feliz Año Nuevo, especialmente a los niños en la frontera y también todos la gente en el mundo. Gracias a ustedes por su indulgencia este año en mis canciones, aunque todos de ustedes necesitan cambiar a trabajo. I'd like to say all my speeches in Spanish, but I don't remember my high school Spanish so much. But to honor the people who are God's chosen people, Mexicans, Hondurans, South Americans, extremely religious people, sometimes putting their faith in the wrong place. I wish them a happy Christmas, peaceful lives. I hope they're united, parents, children, and we can finish this shame that we're living, thanks to the Trump administration. Thank you.
Well, I agree with Bonnie. Every child that is in one of those camps, it costs $750 a night to house them in a tent. They have space blankets. They're not allowed to touch or comfort one another. As a representative from Oregon is having trouble even accessing the camps. I checked a room at the Four Seasons in San Francisco costs less a night than what it costs to house a child in these privately owned prisons. Betsy DuVos, his brother, has the contract from Blackwater, I believe it's now Z. They are making billions off of this refugee crisis. These refugees have come from Central America, fleeing violence that was exported from our government, our foreign policy. Even Obama, who I really liked Obama on a lot of levels, but a coup under his watch in 2009 happened, and these people are fleeing violence that our arms, our foreign policy creates these refugees. Supervisor Mills, on you called for a moment of silence, and it was an odd moment of silence to me because for some reason you seemed really giddy at the last meeting. You actually had a hard time keeping a straight face when you asked us to honor President H.W. Bush. I'm not a fan of the Bushes. I feel like so much of the refugee crisis worldwide is because of the foreign adventures that we've gone on for oil. I don't understand why you called for a moment of silence and laughed as you were saying it. I was baffled. I sat through a wonderful presentation about a homeless task force, and I heard people say, you know, that homelessness is a choice a month after Paradise. I drove from Colorado on Election Day to vote. I have to shut down a business there because I'm unfunded. This was my participation trophy. I voted. I wish that I could make these hands make a peace sign. I can't. There's a symbol I'd very much like to put up here, but it's inappropriate. I won't. We need participation on all levels of our democracy, and it is high time that our representatives listen to us. Those children are God's children, and it is shameful what is happening under this administration.
Thank you.
Thank you. And please,
Thank you.
I know that
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank
Megan has been bullied by Carl
Thank you
Stoughton.
very much. Thank you.
You have not enforced
Thank you
your
very
rules.
much. Your time is up.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye.
A little 7-year-old girl died crossing a desert in New Mexico recently, and it is a very tragic thing. I believe that we need to have peace through strength, and if we do not take care of our own selves, we cannot take care of other people. And I believe that if people are serious about trying to help people, we should help our own people that have lost their homes in these fires. And I know I'm going to get accused for conspiracy theories and all that, but I don't believe that these fires are started accidentally necessarily. I keep hearing on the radio that PG&E has found bullet holes in some of their equipment up there by the Paradise fire start. And I think that, you know, what we have experienced this last year is people standing up and trying to stand for what they believe on either side. And we're divided, and that is going to not change. We can communicate with each other, but we're divided. And I think that if we wanted to do something together, would be to focus on the people that have lost their homes and try to help the people that want to stay in on their land to do that. And you know, if something really, really even worse happens than like the Paradise fire, say we got hit by a nuclear bomb or a huge earthquake or whatever kind of tragedy that might occur, we're going to have to pull together, and we're going to have to make standards so that people can survive, unless we all end up in FEMA camps. Thank you.
Other public comment?
Michael Falvey, District 2, potpourri of thoughts here at the end of the year. This board's last, I think it's your last meeting, right, as a board? Mary, first off, happy holidays to the 8 of you up there. Enjoy the holidays with your family. I would like to echo the recognitions of CAO Lutz, Supervisor Oliveira, and the ladies, Mrs. McLean and Mrs. Osborne, for their service. I'd like to echo those acknowledgments. We've had a lot of kumbaya moments the last couple hours. And echoing Ms. Whitkey's statement, calling a public official from this podium right here is one thing. And I've called most of you on one thing or another. I don't believe, correct me if I'm wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'll accept being pointed out I'm wrong. But verbally insulting and demeaning an individual takes it to another level, like Mr. Stoughton did. Our board wanted those commitment to civility rules posted. And not shortly after they were put up, I sat out there and watched that vicious attack by Mr. Stoughton, and I watched you sit there and not say a thing to him. I hope our next board chairman does not allow that kind of attack to happen from this podium. I will call each and every one of you on your inefficiencies, and you can call me on my inefficiencies, but I will not call you some of the names that were used from this podium. So again, I hope our next board chairman follows through on the commitment to civility. Mr. Oliveira, I thank you for your service. I think you were misunderstood, and too many people voted by, the ridiculous statements that are thrown out there online. I think you did a good job. Thank you. I hope our next board is more civil towards each other, not profane towards each other, not yelling at each other, and they're more acceptance of all individuals' opinions. We have these rights as citizens. We have the right to call you on things as long as we're civil. So, that comes with the territory. I hope the next board is more successful in their efforts to legislate this county. And I hope they take all people's rights into consideration. And I hope they listen and focus on the people that are making public comment, not stare at their iPads. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Seeing none, I'll close public comments. We'll move on to the consent agenda.
Consent agenda items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They will be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member, staff member, or interested party may request removal of an item from the consent agenda for later discussion.
Any board member wish to pull an item? Seeing none. Any staff member wish to pull an item? Seeing none. Any member of the public wish to pull an item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Looking for a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion by Supervisor Oliveira. Second by Supervisor Clapp. Any other discussion? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. At this time, we will go to lunch. We will have lunch from now, 12 o'clock, to 1:15. 1:15. Which time we'll come back and convene, and we will go into a closed session, and we will go to closed session item number 36.
Item 36, public employee appointment. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B1, title, Interim County Administrative Officer.
We're going to go to lunch first and then come back and go into closed session. We can do public comment now if you'd like. Is there any public comments on this item? Seeing none, close public comments. When we return from lunch at 1:15, we go retire to closed session. No, we don't need to come back in here because we already had public comment. So when we come back and reconvene, we will go into the closed session room. Okay? All right, we are back from closed session. And we were on item, that was a closed session for item number 36. Madam Clerk, you want to reread item number 36?
I will. Item 36 is public employee appointment pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B1, title Interim County Administrative Officer. There was no reportable action taken. This item will be continued to the January 8th, 2019 meeting.
And that leads us to the regular agenda. And the regular agenda had to do with that closed session, had to do with item number 23. I'm going to read item 23.
Item 23 is from Human Resources to adopt a resolution appointing Manuel Lopez as interim county administrative officer effective December 18, 2018, and authorize the board chair to sign the employment agreement.
And this item is going to be pulled from today's agenda and rescheduled to a future date.
Got it.
Moving on to item number 24, it's OES.
Item 24 is to receive an update on disaster recovery activity throughout Calaveras County for Butte Fire 2015, tree mortality 2015, and winter storms 2017.
I think we're on 1 minute.
I think we skipped one. We're on 24.
They're different. Yeah.
Mine has OES.
Mine doesn't. Mine says OES.
You want to flip a coin?
I'm looking right at it.
Closed session. How do we have different? Was the one posted different?
You want to? Do you want to see mine?
OES and HHS. Come on.
24 on, oh, I see, on,
You're right, 24
on the GovGen, yeah,
is HR.
yeah, it's HR.
We're out of order. My printed copy and web copies are not the same.
Yeah, 25 is disaster recovery. So, I'm going to go with the agenda that we have out in the audience that was here for the public, and we'll go with item number 24, the OES. Is someone here from OES to? I don't see Michelle, so.
Chair, if that's the case, where in the agenda is the changes to the position control list for HHSA?
At 28.
And just for the record, all of the items, they're all consistent between the two versions. It's just in what
Different
order
order.
they are showing up, and it must be a system issue that we'll work on fixing.
Okay, thank you. I just didn't want to miss one.
Yeah, but I'm just going with what we had handed out here. So, do you have the copy that was handed to us and the public that was here?
It's right here, yes.
So they are consistent, it's just the numbers are different.
Thank you.
So good afternoon, Chair Tofinelli and members of the board. My name is Joshua Pack. I'm your Director of Public Works. I'm here, as you notice, our Director of OES is not here today. I'll be providing a little bit of information on her behalf. She could not be here today. We also have Tad Mason with TSS Consultants who will be providing an update on some of the issues and projects concerning and related to OES. So the first section, we're going to talk about our roads or projects related to public works. So for the public, and I know this is a recurring presentation we do before you, there's a couple of different categories and a couple of different disasters that are relating to this. So both the Butte Fire and the 2017 winter storms. There's projects in Public Works' stead that are taking place under these two scenarios, and then there's also two different federal agencies that are providing funding for the recovery. One of those is the Federal Highways Administration. A lot of the bigger projects, more I would say higher visible projects, are being handled through FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. So I'm going to go over some of the projects first for FHWA. There's about 22 projects in all. A lot of them are very similar. Most of them are minor pavement repairs. damaged or failed pavement due to the moving of equipment and materials during the recovery and response projects. So there were 18 total or so relating to the Butte Fire response, and there's an additional 4 or so relating to the 2017 storm. So in both of these, I'm going to slide to both slides. So I'm working with Matt Boyer, who's representing the county as a project administrator on this. We're soliciting proposals for final design for this. The good thing about these 22 projects is they're all very similar. Most all of them are simple and relatively straightforward pavement repairs. There's a couple of guardrail fixes and some culvert replacements. So the idea that Matt and I have floated in staff is to deliver these all as a single bulk project. The preparation of specifications and project plans should be straightforward. We're actually in the solicitation process probably later this week. We'll have someone on board in January or February with the goal to go to construction sometime in spring or early summer at the very latest. So again, these are relatively straightforward. The goal with these is to move forward with the bulk of these, as many as possible. If there's 1 or 2 that slide out due to various delays, whether it's environmental or right-of-way or what have you, we will continue to move forward with the bulk of the projects. We're not going to let 1 or 2 projects threaten the potential delivery of the other 21. So that's the bulk of the FHWA projects. Shifting focus, we have 5 major FEMA projects that are still related. Now, we have delivered close to or approximately 100 various FEMA projects with our own internal forces. Those projects are all done. Most of those are closed out. The 5 that we have left are relatively big. The first 2 that I have on this sheet are both Canyon View Drive and Hawver Road. I also have a third one on a subsequent sheet for Gwynn Mine. And so these 3 projects, we did a solicitation for services for each of these projects separately. We received not a huge turnout in response, but for these 3 particular projects, we did receive sufficient response to issue a proposed contract. So we were attempting to make the December timeline. We were a little late in the game to get it to you in December, but we actually have those in the process right now to get to you at the first meeting in January. So 2 of those will be submitted to NV5. The third one will be Wood Rogers. So those contracts are already in draft form. They're being circulated internally, and all things going well, those will be to the board in January, the first meeting in January. The remaining 2, one is Blagan Road, and the other one is Murphy's Drive. Those 2, when we went through the solicitation process, we did not find any consultants that provided responses bids to those. So we have gone back out. We've done a little bit more of a thorough job. I don't want to say thorough, a little bit more of a robust job to try and attract new consultants. I think with this last time we went around, we tried to go aggressive, we went quick. And I think the timeline and the process asking people to bid on all 5, I think it spooked a couple of folks that maybe depressed some of our responses a little bit more than we were hoping for. So we're also using a little bit more streamlined process. So I think we've already heard a lot of feedback. We're going to get more proposals with this. So the goal with this one is, like I said, the proposal, the RFP is already issued. We're hoping to solicit feedback and bring that to you probably in the first meeting in February is my goal, but it will be sometime in February. The total thing that I've added this new slide as a summary, and I want to kind of bring you up to speed in the public with the methodology. For folks on the dais who know me, I'm relatively new. I've been here about 2 months. It's given me enough time to become up to speed with some of the projects and what we need to do. And my first message is I've already had calls from the public on almost all of these projects. In particular, Canyon View, I've had a couple of calls. Murphy's, a number of calls. I know there's a lot of concern about these projects. I empathize strongly with the residents that I've talked to, and I feel in my new role here, this is the #1 priority I have. Some of these projects that occurred in the winter storms, it's been almost 2 years. While we've delivered a lot of them, these are still out there, and they need to get done. And so it is my top priority as your new Public Works Director. One of the first things I did was ask Matt Boyer, who was our interim Public Works Director, to stay on as an administrator for the emergency projects. His experience in delivering these projects combined with his experience at Calaveras County makes him uniquely qualified to provide administration services for these. The goal of this too, I think, which is a little shift from prior thinking, is we need to deliver these projects quickly and with minimal risk. We need to take off the table the highest and best and most beautiful approach, and we need to deliver a project that works for the residents and is done quickly and done efficiently. So the process that we're asking the consultants to do for each of these is to take that process and to take that approach in their when their alternatives analysis and their ultimate solution. They also need to be context sensitive in the communities in which they're at. Putting a large bridge in a smaller neighborhood may not be the most appropriate project. We need to look at projects that make sense with the neighborhood, make sense with the residents and what they're looking for. We do have hurdles. One of the things that we've missed on the window, one of the things that's, I don't want to say is good, but when you have emergencies that are truly emergencies, the process becomes greatly streamlined. Since these projects are 18 months or more behind, the feds don't necessarily consider them emergencies anymore. So we're kind of hamstrung a little bit with the procedures and processes that are required for more traditional projects, which can take longer. So one of the things that I've tried to do, and what Matt and our staff's tried to do, is to try and develop a new approach that can get these done quickly. With minimizing the exposure to red tape, minimizing the approach to the bureaucratic process that tends to occur with other larger projects. So that's the approach we're going to be taking. Our goal is to develop approaches for each of these projects that gives us the greatest likelihood to deliver all the projects in 2019. And to that end, we'll be doing that to the greatest of our ability. And my hope today is that next year we'll be sitting here having delivered all of these projects successfully. So shifting from that to the disaster recovery and trees, fortunately, Michelle, our OES director, has given me a couple of updates, in particular with PW 78 and PW 99. In PW 78, our OES director, Michelle, has met with Tetra Tech. She met with them on December 7th to review the Phase 2 tree removal project. Now, this project is still in the environmental process phase. However, we are planning, or Michelle is planning, to bring an amended contract with Phillips and Jordan in January to go over that and to bring that to you for your approval. Public Works Project, or PW 99, the debris and ash removal project. This is an amendment to the Tetra Tech agreement. This is for the insurance recovery. It'll also be coming to the board in January. Now that is to close out the activities, to extend the terms of the agreement. That's not necessarily to expand the scope and the size of that project. So those are my highlights from Michelle. As we move on to future slides, I'd like to introduce Tad Mason from TSS Consultants. He's our tree mortality program manager and can provide additional updates on the projects as they come up.
Great. Good afternoon. This is my monthly update. This will be through the end of November. Our accomplishments going forward with the tree mortality program. We have removed, working with contractors, 1,700 trees through the end of November. We currently have in play 19 projects, and we'll be going through some of those right now. First up is Project 3A, which has been completed. A total of 80 trees removed in Blue Lake Springs, including units 14, 15, 16. Also, and this was an imminent hazard tree project 7A in the Murphys area, Skunk Ranch Road. That was about half of these 80 trees removed. Both have been completed, and OES reimbursement documentation submitted to the county. Project 4, a total of almost 400 trees removed. Project has been completed. They're at Big Trees Village, south of the crossing, south of Boards Crossing, and OES reimbursement documentation has been prepared and submitted to the county. Any questions on those two? Okay, moving on. Upcoming projects. Project 4B is up at Sherman Acres, currently under some snow. We're still going to be putting that up for bid here shortly. We submitted the invitation to bid draft to admin late last week, and a total of 40 trees targeted for removal. You can see from this list that we have varying size of projects. The reason for that is we want to attract local tree service companies that may not have as much equipment as some of the more commercial scale contractors, and so we will continue to offer up varying size projects. On to Project 5, which is Lakemont, Meadowmont, and White Pines. This is currently underway, 340 trees for removal. We're about 50% done, and well, actually 60% done, and we expect to be completed by January 1. Project 6 and Project 8 are West Point and Wilseyville, Glencoe, Railroad Flat. Once we pull out Project 7, we're looking at, well, anyway, between Project 6, 7, and 8, about 1,400 trees. These are large projects, relatively speaking. Project 6 and 8, invitations to bid, are out, and we're expecting response tomorrow. Once we have those responses, with working with admin, we hope to have those projects in play and beginning late December, early January. Project 7 is the ITB is draft has been put together and has been delivered to admin. Hopefully that will be up for bid here soon. Project 9, this one's been a little more frustrating. It's BLM land in the West Point, Wilseyville area. BLM, as you're probably aware, has had some significant challenges with the car fire situation, with the campfire situation. Their mother lode field office is understaffed, and we've had real trouble getting responses out of that office. For example, we submitted the complete package for Project 9 on October 24th, and we still haven't heard back on their cultural surveys and their ARC surveys. The good news is on the environmental review process, all that's really needed are cultural surveys. We don't need any botany or any wildlife surveys done. So anyway, working through that process, it's been quite challenging. Project 10 is with the Forest Service. That project is going quite well, actually. It has been awarded to a local logging outfit, Sullivan Logging, out of Mountain Ranch, and they're in the process of removing 400 trees, and they will be done by late January. In fact, they're planning on moving logs off that project tomorrow. Other Forest Service projects in play are projects 11 through 15. We have yet to develop the invitation to bids for these. We wanted to beta test Project 10, our first Forest Service project, to see how it went, and then modify our approach if we have to, based on lessons learned from Project 10. But at any rate, all the trees have been marked. We've got about 1,100 trees, a little over 1,100 trees to come out on those projects, and we're hoping to have the invitation to bid for 12 and 13 in early January. Project 16 is the Avery Sheep Ranch project, about 150 trees to be removed. The draft invitation to bid was submitted today to admin, and we're hoping that process will start here soon. Project 17 to 21, these are projects mostly located on the west side of Highway 49. These were not real high priority because of their location. They're out of the pine type, but they're still in drought impacted areas, so we are seeing some mortality west of 49. During my next project update in late January, I'll provide additional information on our findings from those projects. Project 22 is additional BLM managed lands throughout the county. We have managed to already mark a little over 500 trees, and once we implement Project 9 with BLM, we're hoping to follow that up very shortly with Project 22. Okay, the maps that you have here in front of you are just examples of projects located at West Point, Wilseyville, Glencoe. These are projects 6 and 8. And again, we're expecting the bids to come in tomorrow on these. Next slide. So with over 1,700 trees removed, we're estimating another 5,000 to 6,000 out there still to come out. We are starting to see, as you can imagine, with winter weather, some tree failures. and this is an example of what we're witnessing out on the road systems. This is a concern. We're 4 years since the 2015 drought conditions, if you will, and 2014 drought conditions. We're going to continue to see failures, unfortunately. So, lastly, one of the challenges we are facing is tree service companies are being called away to assist with PG&E projects throughout Central and Northern California, and being drawn away to the campfire cleanup. So we're a little concerned about what the bid response is going to be on the next couple projects, but so far, at least some tree service companies are showing up at the pre-bid meetings, so we're hoping for some participation, preferably by locals. So that's my report. Any questions?
Supervisor Mills.
Yes. Do you feel that a master stewardship agreement might be helpful to us in the longer term as we move through these projects?
Supervisors, you brought that up last time, and that's an interesting concept. The challenge with master stewardship contracts that I've worked on is that the proposing agency, be it the Nature Conservancy, which is who we've worked with in the past, or the Mule Deer Foundation, has to bring resources to the table. And traditionally it's cash, like a match on a per acre basis. So I'm not sure that that's going to help us here with Calaveras County, considering how resources are these days. And I don't think it's going to help us with the projects we're working on right now. Yeah. But on a more landscape level basis, absolutely. If we're talking about defensible communities and on a grander scale, instead of just individual tree mortality, which was our focus, I think master stewardship agreements have their place, or just standard stewardship agreements.
Right. But if we just started moving in that direction and putting those agreements on the ground now, we are not necessarily wanting to use them at this moment. Right. But where the opportunity exists, we then have that in place, and it is not going to delay us in making those additional moves.
So on the Stanislaus National Forest, I don't believe they have experience with master stewardship agreements.
Yes, they do.
They do?
Yeah, absolutely.
And which one is that?
I've been in meetings with them on Greenlee Road.
Are they implementing an MSA?
Yes.
UMRA
has one.
Excuse me, the
or
Calaveras
two.
Amador Consensus Group.
Okay.
Thank you.
Contracting through UMRA too.
Well, I know Lily Gap is a stewardship contract,
Exactly.
not an MSA, but I wasn't aware of the MSA. At what scale, Supervisor? How many acres?
It's primarily what they're doing through YSS over in Tuolumne County on the Stanislaus in Tuolumne County.
Okay.
And there's $7 million that was put towards them last year alone.
And the funding came from?
The funding, I'm not certain how that all worked out. I just know they were awarded a contract of about $7 million to YSS through the MSA.
Okay.
So, do you know more?
I'm sorry, Supervisor, please.
Go ahead.
Continue.
No.
I was just saying, I'm happy to share, as a board representative to UMRA, sort of where that money's been flowing through.
Okay.
It's also on the UMRA website, and I'll explain to you what I know.
Great, thank you.
If there's additional value for additional work.
Okay.
I see some value in it in a longer term, maybe not specifically to the contracts that we're talking about today, but that the staff needs to start putting that together so that we have that additional piece of the puzzle in place. I don't want to be stepping on the Cornerstone project or any other projects that are out there.
Right.
I simply want to be able to have something in place that we can be utilizing in the future. Secondly, we've got a local utility district that seems to think that the county doesn't do anything regarding tree mortality. And I take extreme exception to the comment that was made at a meeting last Thursday about this very issue, looking at the thousands of trees that have been taken out at our effort and expense here. So maybe it's a matter that other agencies are not aware locally of the amount of millions of dollars that are going into the work that is being done in this effort. And I think you have a great list put together here to explain the financial impacts as well as the cultural impacts of removing these trees, that it needs to be spread out so that everybody's aware of the amount of work that's being done, because that is a large scale effort you're talking about here.
Supervisor, you bring up a very good point. There is the Calaveras tree mortality website. And, one recommendation could be that we start posting up some of these presentations on that website so that you could direct entities like this utility that will remain unnamed, I guess. You could point them to the website and they can see the accomplishments.
Exactly.
So I will put that down as an action item for myself to work with Michelle and Josh to get that up.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other board comments, questions?
I'm curious what the utility was, but maybe I'll ask you on break.
Ask me on break.
I think we're doing a lot.
I'll give you their name and phone number if you'd like.
It's a small county.
Yes,
I really appreciate all the work and the presentations you guys are doing. I know we've got the BLM issue, and we're working on that both for the Butte Fire as well as tree mortality. Are we getting the data that we collected from the Butte Fire regarding these trees from Tetra Tech? I mean, are they? I hear. Just curious. Are we getting what we need back from them?
I'm not monitoring that. I'm staying clear of the Butte Fire.
I can answer that. So Michelle, our OAS director, has been corresponding with Tetra Tech. I know there's a request in, I believe, yesterday or late last week for that information in anticipation of a meeting with BLM.
Right.
I'm under the impression that they've received that and they're planning to have that information to us. So I know there is a direct connection between the two, and that information is going back and forth. To the extent of that, Michelle would be probably the best person to answer that. I'm happy to go offline to get.
That's great. I mean, I just assume that their work product done on our dime is ours.
I totally agree.
So very good. Thank you very much, both of you.
Good point.
And one more question not related to trees. And this is something you may want to take offline, but I'm concerned as to whether or not Canyon View as a road is structurally sound enough to handle another wet year event, as to whether or not we will be able to stabilize it because of the Utica Water Project flume that goes right below it that just got missed in this landslide that we're dealing with now. But is that soil stabilized or have enough stability to it to not cause a further slippage in a very major event? But I would just ask to take a look at it and see whether or not there's something that might be a potential there.
Yeah, Supervisor Mills is an excellent point. I actually asked our road superintendent to go up this week to take a look at it. We have been monitoring it with our own staff to make sure there's no additional slippage. We haven't seen much to this date. That includes the subsequent winters. I guess there's at least one winter and a couple of storms subsequent to that. So we'll be continuing to monitor it. If we do see additional slippage or other movement that could foresee or foretell a future event, it will absolutely be out there on an emergency basis doing what we can to stabilize that. So eyes are on it. These will be an additional set of eyes as part of this, and I think those are separate things. If we do see additional slippage, absolutely we're going to be out there stabilizing and taking efforts separately from what's already going on with Canyon View.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any public comments? Questions? If not, thank you very much.
Have a great holiday.
And just for the public, I was a little late and tardy. There are some copies of this slide, so they are available to them if anyone that has an interest in reviewing the information from that. Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to give you need a couple minutes to break down, or no? You're good?
I can do it quick. Easier to break down and to set up.
All right, we're going to move on to item on the agenda that was given to us here publicly and on the podium. Item number 28, which is the Human Resources. Madam Clerk, if you want to read it.
This item from Human Resources is to adopt a resolution authorizing changes to the position control list for the Health and Human Services Agency and new and revised job descriptions.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the board. Judy Hawkins, Human Resources and Risk Director. And what I'm bringing before you today is a restructure of the HHSA management level. And so HHSA and Human Resources has collaborated in reviewing all of their management level positions since the retirement of the HHSA Deputy Director, John Lawless. Kristen, so the director of HHSA decided not to replace that position until she did a comprehensive review of her management levels, making sure we had the classifications correct, that we had the job duties for the classifications lined up, and then we also looked at how our classifications mirrored merit systems. And so in that review, they came back with their suggestions for the reclassifications. Human Resources looked at it and then assisted with new job descriptions and changes to the job descriptions. And now the recommendations are before you. And then along with the changes for Health and Human Services, Kristen and I had a long discussion regarding the assistance of Human Resources in Health and Human Services and the need of more assistance. And so we are requesting to place an HR analyst within Health and Human Services, but reporting directly to Human Resources. And so the recommendations that we are making is that we add a new position of HHSA Program Manager for the Mental Health Department, the Human Resources Analyst that I just talked about. We are asking to reclassify the program managers to deputy directors, which is a merit systems position, so we will be in line with merit systems. And then we are also asking to reclassify the Social Services Supervisor 1-2 to Program Manager. Am I getting? I apologize. I'm getting back and forth. And then we are asking to reclassify the Program Manager 1 position to Eligibility and Employment Services Program Manager. And this will be in line with merit systems. And then we are also asking to reclassify the Business Administrator to HHSA Fiscal Administrator. And the reason we're asking to separate that out is because of all of the responsibilities, grants. It's very different in Human Services than other departments. And I can let Kristen speak to that if you have any questions. And then we are asking for equity increases for 3 staff services analyst positions. That is a merit systems position, but it mirrors the job duties that are equal to department analysts, and we are just asking that they be paid the same as department analysts, since their job duties mirror them exactly. And then we are also asking for the equity increase of the Deputy Director of Behavioral Health, since we are not replacing John Lawless, and this position is taking on more responsibilities. As well as it will put this person in place with the Deputy Director of Social Services. And with this alignment, we're also, this will create a succession plan for Health and Human Services. And Kristen, do you want to add?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, or afternoon, excuse me, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Kristen Brinks, Health and Human Services. So just in a nutshell, Ms. Hawkins did go over some of the recommended changes, but really what I wanted to communicate is Health and Human Services has only been a combined agency since about 2013, and since then we've been really adding programs and kind of getting our groove in terms of how you become a consolidated agency, and there's a lot of things that come into play with that. So we've been taking a look at ways that we could integrate. Some of those include creating a comprehensive administration division, which we did last year, which allows us to really have a lot of efficiencies in terms of moving towards more duties, type-based work as opposed to I report to this program, you do payroll, or you do accounts payable, you do them for all the different programs. So those have been some of the successes we've had thus far. Really what I would like the board to know is we took a long time as an agency and got a lot of input in terms of what is the management structure that we need to best support our team moving forward. And these recommended changes, we believe, will create a structure which gives the support necessary to each division. Again, we've added programs and services, but we hadn't really taken a time to look across. After you keep adding, you have to eventually look at, do I have the structure now, or am I overloading certain program managers, et cetera? I think the other part for the community to understand is that because we're choosing not to fill our Health and Human Services Deputy Director at this time, we actually are going to all of these changes. The main purpose of them was to make sure people were in the proper classifications, and then from there we took a secondary look on if there needed to be any recommended salary adjustments, equity increases that need to be made. But all in all, when it all rolls up into a package, we actually realized a savings in fiscal year 18-19 of approximately $3,000, a little under, because again, we have made the decision to recommend to the board not to move forward with hiring that position. So we had some salary savings to kind of mitigate any of that. With adding the human resources analyst position, that does have a cost of about $54,000. But again, as Ms. Hawkins spoke to earlier, this falls in line with a lot of the other things we've done in Health and Human Services, such as having a dedicated information technology person on our team, having a dedicated county counsel. This is a practice that we've been utilizing, and it does serve us and the county very well. So that's just kind of the nutshell of it.
Any board questions? Supervisor Garamendi.
Thank you very much. These positions were all unclassified before, so they are not represented by SEIU. So
No, these are management positions.
We're not taking any. We don't need to consult with SEIU on this.
These are unrepresented positions.
Thank you.
Supervisor Mills.
So, Kristen, your budget then, at the end of the fiscal year, 18-19 fiscal year, we'll see about a $50,000 difference, roughly?
Yeah, when it's all said and done, because the increase, yes.
Okay.
At the high end, I want to preface that. Yeah.
But you have unfilled open positions within your department right now, so there are some salary savings that are accruing.
Yes.
As we speak.
Yes.
So that 50,000 would be an all-in number based upon all the positions being filled, and they're currently not. So I'm anticipating from my side of it that you're not going to expend that amount when we're done at the end of the year.
Yes, we don't anticipate that.
Okay. Thank you.
Supervisor Oliveira.
Thank you.
But to Supervisor Mills' point, these aren't general fund dollars, so we don't get them back.
No, none of this is general fund dollars.
Well, we appreciate the savings.
Yeah.
All non-general fund. So, any other board questions? If not, is there public questions on this item? Seeing no public questions, comments, we'll bring it back to the board. Looking for a motion. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Supervisor Mills. Do I have a second?
Second.
Call for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay,
The next item is from planning.
yes.
Got to keep up with you, Diane.
To conduct a
Well,
pub,
yeah, can you hold on one
Yes.
second? Yes, we'll move on to that. We'll move on to this. I was going to move it down the list, but that's fine. Gina's already here, so.
Okay, so to conduct a public hearing and adopt an amended resolution establishing an agricultural preserve and Williamson Act contract number 363 for Mark Connolly.
Okay, I have an announcement to make first. I will be recusing myself from this item. Again, this was on the agenda previously. This is across the street from my house. I look directly out from my front porch on this parcel of land. According to FPPC, if it's within 500 feet of my property, then I should recuse myself, so I will.
If it makes a difference, we're not asking to reconsider the
I know it's
establishment.
redoing the
Okay.
resolution, but still, we have to revote on the
Okay.
new verbiage on the resolution. So I think Supervisor Karen Mendy has...
I will choose to recuse myself.
Who's a
as well.
relative.
Thank you. Simply because it's...
Very
we have to
good.
vote on the resolution. Mike, you want to...
You guys are lucky I'm going to stay. Go home on this one.
Good thing you don't need a 4/5 vote.
Okay, Madam Clerk, do you have any further announcements on this agenda item?
I'm sorry?
Do you have any further announcements on this agenda item?
I do not accept that it is to conduct a public hearing.
Correct. We'll open the hearing now.
Okay.
Welcome.
Real quick. On November 13th, this very board already voted to establish Ag Preserve Contract 363 for Mark Connolly, 176 acres down off of Burson Road. Unfortunately, I submitted to you an inappropriate, incorrect resolution for your consideration because the Ag Preserve contracts have a special, specific template that we use, which includes policies and rules governing the administration of an Ag Preserve. And don't know what I was thinking, but I submitted just a general resolution for consideration. It wasn't until after the meeting that I realized the mistake that I had made. So before you is the modified resolution using the correct template for recordation purposes. And again, it is not to reconsider the establishment of the contract. We've already done that. In addition, we've already voted to adopt the zoning, which is appropriate for an ag preserve. So the only thing I am doing is asking you to approve this modified resolution, which will replace the resolution 2018-113-2013, which was approved by you back on November 13th.
Thank you. Is there any further staff comments regarding this issue? Is the appellant present? I'm seeing no response. We'll bring it back to the board for discussion. Any discussion?
Yes, Gina, I'm rather curious about something.
Hold on. Supervisor Clapp, could you hold your motion?
He can still make comment.
Okay, yeah.
And this wasn't just you that this had to pass through.
Correct.
Okay, so this slipped through a lot of fingers, so to speak.
Yes.
Okay. I appreciate your willingness to want to correct it.
Yeah, we are kind of thinking about reconsidering the workflow and thinking that we need to add perhaps maybe Kevin Wright, and I'll talk to Diane about that, see if there's any possible way that we can include him in the review of the contracts in the future. Just because when I mentioned it to him, he says, I would have caught that. And there's no doubt in my mind that he would have caught the mistake, but unfortunately no one else did.
So it's just adding a checkbox of another person to just check off on these particular issues.
I don't know if it's possible, but I'll work with Diane. Maybe that's something that we can work on for next year.
Yeah, I'd just like to be sure we don't let it happen again. So.
Yeah.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Mills. Any further discussion? Questions by the board? Any public comment? Seeing no response for request for public comment, I'll go ahead and close the hearing. I'll entertain a motion. Supervisor Clapp?
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Your
to
mic,
approve the
sir.
amendment. I'll make the motion to approve the amendment.
I have a motion to approve the amendment. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Supervisor Mills. No further comment. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed indicate by saying no. Motion carries 3 with 2 abstentions.
No, they're recused.
Recused, 2 recused.
Thank you for your time.
Would you notify our supervisors? Thank you, Mr. Clapp.
That's nice. All right, we'll move on to item number 26 on our in-house agenda.
This item is from Information Technology to approve quotes 220-86371_2, 222-80970, 222-80974 to E Plus for a total amount of $229,775.35 for equipment that will be used in a CIP project 5708 to upgrade the server environment in the SO data center. Direct CAO to issue purchase orders to E Plus for the approved quotes.
Stanley, you're up.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Board. The agenda item that we're talking about today is going to be updating significant technology that we've got in the Sheriff's data center. And there is, right now we've got a series of old computers, basically old servers, that are in need of being upgraded. So we're upgrading the servers, we're upgrading to a different type of technology. The type of technology that we're upgrading to is very similar to what we put in the county's main data center about 3 years ago and has been very successful for us. By the way, these purchases are being made through a cooperative purchasing agreement that Bonnie Rich had brought forward through administration a month ago and received board approval as a way of ensuring that we are getting the best prices that we can. So that's on the purchasing side. So the equipment will be we'll be making big changes to the way that we roll out systems and the way that we put those onto the servers in the data center. Without getting into a great deal of detail on how we are doing that, we'll say that it is keeping in line with what data centers are doing now. With, instead of having an individual server for a system, you've got a large server that can house multiple systems. That's the way that we are going to be heading. The RIM system, which is the main system for law and justice, will be the first system after we've got this new box up and running that we will be migrating to. Now, that RIM system is running on equipment now that has served us well, but it really does need to be upgraded. Multiple systems will be added to this new server over a period of time. It will be able to accommodate all of the systems that we're running in the Sheriff's Data Center without any problem. A very significant feature that is as a result of this new architecture, it will give us the capability between the Sheriff's Data Center and the main data center to be acting as backups for each other. This positions us, and the RIM system will be the first system that we will do this with, where we will be able to have a parallel, if you will, of the RIM system running in the main data center. If we have a major issue with the equipment in the Sheriff's Data Center for RIMs, it will fail over and we'll be able to run in the main data center. This is going to take a period of time to make that happen, but this new architecture gives us that capability. Today we don't have that capability in place. And so from a continuity of operations standpoint, this starts to move us in a direction of having much better backups, much better resiliency than we have today. It will be one of numerous ways that we deal with continuity of operations, as we, in all California areas, are paying a lot of attention to continuity of operations. So we're very pleased with what's going to be going on with that. We have reviewed this with the sheriff and with Captain Macedo. They understand what we're going to be doing. They're very much on board with this taking place. We will be placing the order, assuming that we get approval, we'll be placing the order tomorrow. And within, right now, the vendor feels that within about a month, they'll have the equipment on site. It'll take us some time to get it set up. Probably within about 3 months, that's our estimate, we'll be able to take that RIM system off of old equipment, move it to the new system, and start down the path. I've had a question from various people in terms of what's the life expectancy of this equipment. Right now, the vendor has not provided a date that they will stop selling. They feel that the equipment will be good for at least 6 years as far as being serviceable. I think it will be longer than that, but we know that we've got a lifespan of at least 6 years. That's very much in line with industry-provided dates for computer and server type equipment. So we would like to move forward. This is a $230,000 purchase for this equipment. The entire project is $272,000. There's some other pieces that we have to do to finish up the project. This is obviously the main portion of it. So we would like to move forward with this purchase at this time. Are there questions that I can help you with?
Supervisor Mills.
Yes, the question would be, you know how much the equipment's going to cost. You know about what it's going to take to set it up. Your 6-year all-in cost on this is the 272, or are you figuring it's going to be more than that?
Thank you for the question. The equipment itself, this purchase is $230,000. That includes between 1 and 3 years of maintenance, depending on the components. There will be another, over that 6-year period, we estimate there will be another $40,000 for more maintenance-related costs. That gets us from 230 to 270. That's not using the 272, but it is 40,000 more that will come out of operating expense in the out years. So that gets us up to $270,000. The implementation of the equipment, part of that is baked into this initial $230,000. There will be time that will be spent by staff as well. That time is not baked into any of these figures. With the way that we do budgeting right now, we're not charging that back to the project at this time.
So if the raw cost, well, let's just take the $270,000 number, and you could divide that by 6 years. Right. That's the life expectancy of the product. Is there a way for us to start setting aside the roughly what would I estimate, about $45,000 every year in a budget, so that when you get to that 6th year, you've got the money necessary to replace the equipment rather than coming out of teeter?
I think that's a great question. And as you know, and as you just stated, today this is going to be taken out of teeter. We do not have a mechanism in place today. It is something that I think would be a good thing for us to be looking at in the 1920 budget cycle, not just for this project, but for other technology refresh projects as well. In the main data center, we've got this same system. It's 3 years old. I suspect that will go for another 4 or 5 years, but we are going to have to be refreshing that equipment at some point in time. The county network requires updates on a regular basis, and it would be good to have a technology fund that we are putting money into that we can be drawing down on in subsequent years, so that we would be a little bit protected from going into a year and having perhaps a lean year with teeter and not being able to make those investments. I would like to see us looking at that in the upcoming budget cycle.
Well, specifically, the amount of money that's being expended here, you could consider this to be a capital asset.
Yes, sir.
And that is the one thing that I think that the county's been a little bit short on, is how are we maintaining the future funding of capital assets?
Yes.
And this goes to fleet services, this goes across a broad spectrum, but I think that we need to start realizing that we cannot be reactionary to it. We've got to be thinking, what does the future look like, and how do we possibly fund that future each and every year that asset's depreciating?
Yes.
So I just want that as part of the discussion, to understand the importance that, yes, we're going to do this right now, but should the economy change and everything go south, are we going to be in a different financial position? If we're not setting money aside, we may not have the option of being able to do anything about it. Then what do we do? So.
And for many years, the county was in that position on the technology side, and we had underinvested or very limited investments from 2008 until about 5 years ago, and it is not a good situation to be in.
Okay, I appreciate the conversation.
Okay.
Supervisor Oliveira.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of quick questions, Stan. This may be a mute question. The security measures taken for the backup system, switching from the sheriff's office into our main servers, that's been addressed and everything is up to par on that. Is that correct?
I believe I understand the question. We are taking backups of all of our systems right now. That's the data side.
Right.
If you had a major equipment failure, it would take down the program as well, right?
Okay.
And that is a risky situation. Then you have to get the vendor involved to help rebuild it and so on. This gives us the equipment so that we can begin that process of having that computer program, if you will, running in two different places. So that if there was a big computer problem, a server problem in the sheriff's data center where this runs, we would be able to move it over and run it from the main data center, the data and the system itself without a big downtime.
And maintaining the required security for that. That's been built into the program.
Yes, sir. This will, even though it would be running in that backup, if you will, in the county's main data center, it will still reside on the sheriff's network, which is a DOJ certified protected network.
Second question, there is no state funding for this program. Everything's done on the county. Is that correct?
That is correct. This is all through Teeter.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is this something that we might want to consider in the longer term of how we might share with other counties and backup and storage capacity, that
Sure.
we don't keep everything on site within the government center here, that we start thinking about how can we push and they can push to us, that we do start that sharing concept, not so much with DOJ,
Right.
but with all of the other pieces of this puzzle? Because my concern is this, we run a lot of hot power here.
Yes.
And we run dirty power. That means that, our UPS systems are having to take up the slack, our power conditioners are taking up the slack, but they're limited on how quickly they can do their clamping.
Right.
So I'm thinking that this has to be a shared problem, more along the kind of lines of how do we talk to Tuolumne County, Amador County, and other counties adjacent to us to share that information so that our data is not stored just in one library sitting in this government center.
Right. Those are valid reasons. There's additional reasons that we've all seen how wildfires can spread to areas wider than we would have previously thought possible. So we've got some open space between these two data centers. We still, from a continuity of operations standpoint, need to look at other places to have our data off-site. We've talked about the possibility of doing exactly what you are mentioning with having a collaborative or a cooperative agreement with one or more other counties. Some other California counties do that. There are also counties that are moving towards managed service providers that do this and put it into, whether it's Amazon or some other major data center, and manage for it that way. We have to have a way of doing this where it is not solely within Calaveras County.
And with the fiber optics that we currently are using, it's not a speed issue. It's a throughput issue. It's just a matter of where do we want to put it, to some degree.
Yes. We will be bringing a project forward in hopefully in the next few months that will be making changes to our internet access that we've got to improve our redundancy there as well, so that if we did want to get out to another county or get to the cloud, if you will, that we will have more bandwidth and we'll have redundancy that we do not currently have.
Thank you.
Stanley, I'm completely behind this project, and I think the funding source for it was set up specifically for this type of
Yes, sir.
venture that we're doing here, the Teeter Fund, when it was set up by the former board, past board. My question to you is, though, and hopefully it's probably on the minds of some people out there, and I'll ask the question, is the sheriff's office is relatively new. It opened up 2014.
Correct.
And so all of the equipment that's in there now and the databases that we're using there now is totally antiquated from that period of time? Are we replacing so I think that's where we need to...
Right. It is a subset of that equipment.
It's a subset, okay.
Right. And it is a limited number of individual servers, but there is a lot of network equipment there. There's a lot of other equipment, so this is not a complete refresh of that equipment. It is for a subset.
So it's still, that equipment's still viable, still usable. We are going to utilize it.
Those individual servers that we will take out, those are pretty old. Those are getting to end of life. They, if they have any life left, we'll figure out how to use it. But those are all pretty old servers that date back to when the sheriff's office was on campus here.
Oh, okay. All right. Any other board questions? Any questions from the public?
Al Sakala. Speaking as a real estate broker, I want to compliment the work's being done on the, so this is so complicated. I'm just amazed that it's being done at all. I don't know how human beings can keep track of all this stuff. Part of the function that's going on in the change in the computer system is the GIS system. And in the GIS system, there's a function in the maps for topographical overlay on parcels, or parcels overlaid on topographical maps. This function is important to the assessor, appraisers, and also the real estate industry, because they can, by looking at these maps, they can see how the ground, how steep it is, and what its contours are. And I understand this is being improved, but as of now, I've not been able to use that. Maybe we could get a short report on that process. Thank you.
Stan?
Can I address that?
I just had two questions to kind of clarify the money source. It's not general fund, it's not contingencies, it's teeter money, which comes from where and how much is in the teeter fund?
Okay. If you want to answer Al's question, if you can.
My apologies, Al. You and I have missed several times on this. So I would like to extend an invitation to you to come to my office at your convenience. You and I will work at times to do that. The capability that you're looking for exists today, so it's not tied to this upgrade. And I would be delighted to meet with you and any of your peers. And we will show you in very short order how you can do that today.
Can you do it by email?
It would be, let's talk after the meeting. We'll figure out how to best get you up to speed on it. How's that?
Thank you.
Thanks, Al.
If I might, Mr. Chair. Stan, I wanted to just make a quick comment. I did go on your new GIS website system the other day, and it is pretty impressive.
Well, and I will pass that on to the GIS team.
Thank you.
They've worked quite hard on it.
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay, thank you.
We'll let the CAO answer the teeter.
And yeah, regarding teeter, teeter fund was set up. It is something that has been, in generally it is locally flexible dollars. The intent behind this fund was set asides for projects like, capital improvement related projects. The starting balance for the teeter fund going into this fiscal year was $7.3 million. As noted in the staff report, we anticipated drawing down the teeter fund through various capital projects by about $1.9 million. This project was one of those items. It also receives additional funds throughout the year. The final balance that we expect at year end would be $6.4 million.
When people pay their property taxes late, there's a fine associated with that. That fine goes into the teeter fund. Okay? And that's how it's generated. Whenever there's a fine on property taxes or anything, that money goes into that, and the board set that up separate. Although it could be construed as contingencies or general fund dollars, it was set aside for capital improvement projects within the county grounds when it was set up. The intent of it was, instead of just going into general fund when it came in. So, okay.
Well, no, mind you, this is over many years.
Yeah,
it accrues a fund balance that carries over. And so what we do is when we have large projects like this is when we draw it down. In lean years, we're not drawing any of it down, and it accrues.
It accrues year after year after year. It just goes into the fund. Unless we start using it, it just keeps building up.
Capital project.
Yep, capital project. Okay. That being said, close public comment period. We'll bring it back to the board. I'm looking for a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion by Supervisor Oliveira. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Supervisor Mills. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. All right, we will move on to item number 27. This is the building department item.
This item is to authorize the board chair to execute Amendment 4 to an agreement with Four Leaf Incorporated, increasing the current contract by $50,000 for a total of $450,000 from December 31st, 2017 through June 30th, 2020.
Good afternoon, Chair and Board. Ed Short, Chief Billing Official. As recommended, this is to allow the board to increase the contract to Four Leaf for $50,000 to go for $450,000. I do want to give some background on this so it gets some really clarity on the history of how this came about. This board item is about contract authority. I'm not asking for additional funds. I hope this is clear. The funding for this contract is in the department's budget and has been dedicated for the particular contract since June. This is about contract authority, nothing else. Because of the limits of the department head authority we observe in this county, I need the board to approve an increase in the amount of this contract. Last time it was before the board, there was talk of writing me a check, and it was clear members of the board thought this was a budget transfer or request for additional funding. I'm asking for permission to spend money in this department that is already in the department's budget and has been dedicated for this purpose since the beginning of the fiscal year. I also want to make clear what this contract is for. It's our contract for inspection services and plan check services, basic building functions without which no permits or can be issued or signed off. My predecessor, Mr. Reiner, as you all know, entered into this contract in 2016 because of the demands caused by the Butte fire and because there was inadequate staff to carry out these basic functions. In other words, these contracts have been necessary to keep the lights on in the building department. Without this contract, we would have not been able to do plan checks, inspections, or issue permits in a timely manner. The original contract amount was for $100,000 with a $50,000 limit per annum. The second amendment was for a total of $300,000 with a $100,000 annual limit. $258,652 has been spent by the end of the 2018 fiscal year. The third amendment with a total of $400,000. To date, $378,801 has been paid on the contract. I'm asking the board to increase the contract amount in order to pay for the invoices that we expect to come in between now and the end of the year. Once again, this is not asking for additional money. The money is already in the department's budget and was allocated for use in the contract back in June. Obviously, what should have happened is the contract authority should have been made commensurate with the amount of money that was allocated in these contracts in the budget. That would have eliminated the need for me to come back before the board to ask for permission to spend money that is already in the department's budget and has already been dedicated for this particular professional contracts. That didn't happen, and I'm very sorry that we are spending all this time on it. I'm very sorry for that. What would have been even better would have been to hire permanent staff so that these functions could be handled in-house. That has been our goal all along, but our recruitment efforts took longer than we had hoped, due in part to the fact that this county does not offer competitive salaries. However, I am pleased to tell you that we have been able to hire an excellent plan checker, bring on a couple of inspectors. We can now handle plan check services, inspectors in-house, and we'll be able to terminate these contracts and Bureau of Evaluation by the contract next year. As we discussed, these are expensive contracts. They are not designed for day-to-day functions of the department. They are supposed to be a temporary stopgap measure when our workload exceeds our capacity or to be used exclusively for complicated commercial projects. Because of chronic inadequate staffing, my predecessor relied on these contracts for ordinary plan review inspection services, even though using contractors costs more and using in-house employees than using in-house employees. There are structural problems in the department that have gone unaddressed for years and chronic understaffing. Consequently, I also had to continue to rely on these contracts. This is not an ideal circumstance, but my choice has been either to use these contracts that my predecessor put in place or to stop processing plans, conducting inspections, and issuing permits. These contracts are not the best way to proceed, but they have only been the only way to proceed until we were able to bring additional staff and fix inadequate procedures and practices that have been in place for a very long time. We brought on 2 inspector employees, have hired an extra higher inspector position, hired a plan reviewer, and are advertising for another plan reviewer. Consequently, we will not need to rely on these contracts after January 1st of 2019. I think these contracts should be terminated and replaced with updated contracts that serve the function of handling excessive workloads and complex commercial plans, but are on the terms that are more favorable to the county. Once our newly hired staff is fully trained, we won't need to rely on these expensive contracts anymore. The final contract amendment will get us through by the end of the year, when our staffing levels will be sufficient to carry on the minimum requirements of functioning building department. My people work hard, but there's just not simply not enough of them. There are no accounting procedures and no business administrative staff in the department that tracks invoices in real time. A situation that I hope to remedy. I'm bringing this final contract amendment for now because the October and November invoices have not yet come in, but they are going to exceed the contract authority, but not the amount of funds that are in the department budget for this specific dedicated purpose. Even with this increase in contract authority, we will still have funds available for professional services at the close of the calendar year, but we'll no longer need to use these contracts because the staffing problems have been solved for now. So once again, I want to make sure this is understood. The board has already allocated all the money that has been spent and all the money that we will spend in these professional service contracts. That happened back in June when the budget was approved. As I wrote in my November 13th staff report, the building department is understaffed, unable to complete the workload in a timely manner. And this is an ongoing contract with 4 leave until such time a permanent county staff is available to fill the open position. As I've indicated, the staffing shortages have been remedied for now. As of the end of the year, we will not need this contract. It is my recommendation that these contracts be terminated and new contracts be drafted and implemented next year as a backstop so we can prepare for future peak demands, potential unforeseen staffing issues, and handle complex commercial plans. So do you have any questions?
Supervisor Mills?
Yes, I do. Who's currently doing the commercial plan checking that would be required that a fire marshal sign off on it?
BV.
BV's doing
They have
that?
the capacity to do that. Four Lake does also, but they don't have. In the industry, a lot of people do the musical chairs and they move around, but BV has the capacity of fire marshal. We've had sent up.
And we're going to be getting more residential now that the new code will come into effect about sprinklers in residential.
That is correct. But right now,
So-
we're doing the residential reviews in-house with our plan review now. Just commercial projects is what needs to be said.
That's the problem
That's
area.
the problem right there, commercial
Okay.
projects.
And in the type of plans on 4-leaf, on page 220 of our packet, it talks about the amount of time, the turnaround time. Have those time frames been met during the tire contract, or have there been issues with meeting those time frames? And did we, maybe I should ask that first and get that answer first.
Yeah, probably a while back when there was a lot of workload, a lot of the consultants probably were meeting a lot of those turnaround times, but as it got impacted here recently with a lot of construction in California, with the fires, the consultants are having a difficult time even keeping up with those turnaround times, meeting those contract amounts.
So this is not, I'm not trying to create a negative here. I'm
Yeah,
just trying to
I get it.
get this across, is that if we create a minimum time to turn something around, but there's no liquidated damages, and you understand that term.
Yes,
To not completing it within the time frames required, there's no harm, no foul, even though we've had harm from our side because we're not getting product turned out at the pace that we're looking for. So I have a concern about writing in minimum turnaround times in a contract and then having no ability to create mayhem for failure to meet the performance goal. And we have been verifying their performance goals have been met?
Yes, recently, as I've been here, we've been tracking with a log to turnaround times, and we've been doing it prior for that. They didn't have a log, they didn't have a workload log, but recently we have been tracking them with a system, a spreadsheet system that's called a smart sheet. When we get further up into the tracking system, it'll be a lot better. But right now, you are absolutely right. There are contracts out there that do performance-based contracts. I've done them in the past, and if they didn't meet the turnaround times, we would make it free for the next one to do it. But today, that just is not happening in the industry because most of the industry is impacted. Yeah.
I would just ask staff, and I'm talking about a broader perspective of staff here, that when you set performance goals, you need to also set what is the cost for not meeting those goals.
Correct.
If I was in contracting, if I didn't meet a time window, I know what it costs me. And I would not even put something like this in a contract if there wasn't a subsequent, here's the penalty for failure to perform.
Agreed.
But there is none here. That just kind of messes with my world a little bit.
And that's why I'm recommending determining going to come up with a different scope. I have one in the industry, it's like 20 pages long, that these weren't designed for a long-term solution at all. These were done in 2016 by Mr. Renner.
Okay.
So they were just a stopgap, with hence all the amendments that have been going on. They just weren't working.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? I've got a couple questions.
Okay.
I have your budget in front of me, the final budget, and I'm looking at the narrative that was written as to where these funds are supposed to come from. It references line item 101-00580/5272, and that is professional services, specialized services. And it says at final budget, we allocated $215,000 to that line item. On November 13th, you came before us and you asked to spend $200,000 off that line item, which would leave $15,000 in that item, in that fund, on that line. You're now asking for an additional $50,000. It's not on that line. There's only $15,000 in that. So where's the additional money going to come from?
I have a spreadsheet that might, can I give this to the board?
That's not what the narrative says. The narrative is misleading what you're saying here. It's not saying you're asking to move from what we gave on a resolution on the 13th from BV into here. You're asking to move it from this line that we've already moved it from. So I'm a little concerned as to why it doesn't say that we allocated it from on the 13th to BV, and you're asking now to move it, part of it, half of BV.
I guess another way, if I'm trying to get the answer, the best way to look at it is there was $200,000 in the budget, 5272, I believe, for $200,000 for contractor 1 and 2. So there's a total of $200,000.
Correct.
So the total amount that is remaining for the say contractor 1 is still about $100,425. For 4-leaf, we've been dependent, the past has been dependent on just inspectors. The WEV has not been doing inspections, they're doing it. So really, in essence, there's $200,000 total, and what we're looking for in that line is to spend $150,000 with 4-leaf because they have accumulated a lot of invoices, and we'll deduct $50,000 to the actual PV amount, which will leave us about, even after we deduct $38,000 left for BV. But we're not even using them right now. There's only a plan or two left. I heard something. So basically, the spreadsheet I have here, it can give you kind of the accounting of it, because there's the other $15,000 is for MGT. If you go into the budget, there's a breakout for it. It's for the fee study. There's another $15,000 for the remaining payments going to MGT when they come up with the fee study for doing presentations and stuff like that. So technically, after we're all said and done, we'll have about $18,000 left on after the $50,000 is approved. We'll have $18,789 left for 4-leaf contract with the $150 out of the $200,000, And then 38,000 left for the B because we haven't spent anything over there. There's still $100,000 sitting over there. So that line item is really just a total budget line of $200,000 that we appropriated for the contracts. And that's what 1113 was, a contract authority, not a transfer.
Okay, I have another question.
Okay.
This is off the paper that was issued.
Yes, I have them here.
There is a M. Johnson listed on here.
Mm-hmm.
M. Johnson, it says 30 days at 8 hours per day at $80 per hour. Who is M. Johnson?
He's one of the contract inspectors, and there was a typo on that, but I did send out a new one. That was 30 days excluding holidays from 11/10 to 12/31, which will come to that total projected amount as the end of the year, $19,200. So that's 30 days minus the holidays, projecting out $80 an hour. Again, that person doesn't get $80 an hour. The company gets $8 an hour. They're including all the overheads and expenses that the company usually has.
Where is he on here? Is
You have the same.
Is he part of BV, Four Leaf, Interwest?
Part of Four Leaf.
Oh, he's part of Four
Yeah,
Leaf.
if you look
That's
at-
what I was getting at.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
coming, that $19,000 is coming out of the Four Leaf.
Four
fund.
Leaf,
Okay,
correct.
that's
That is
what I was-
absolutely
that-
correct.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
Yeah, and
Because
I showed the
it doesn't
yeah.
specifically say that, but he was one of the inspectors that Four Leaf sent out.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, which when I got here, they already had Four Leaf inspectors here, and we only had one county inspector, and we're out still, but recently we just hired 2. We have 3 total. We have 2 full-time and a 60%er right now, which now we're going to be able to have no contract inspectors now, which is really the goal that we've been trying to do, which is good news. We're going to have in-house employees.
Okay.
Accomplished.
I think that's the only question I have.
Well, go to page 233, and what you'll find there is the now therefore be it mutually agreed parties' original contract agreements hereby amended as set forth. It says all terms and conditions shall remain in full force and effect as except specifically modified by the following. In other words, each time these contract amendments come before this board, this is an opportunity for us to have an additional conversation about we're not meeting the goals, we don't like the way this is working out, and you know what we did? We just approved them. So really, to some degree, those were our opportunities, those were missed opportunities.
Yeah, it's
If we felt there was something going wrong here, those were missed opportunities. And it isn't just this contract. I'm going to talk a little bit broader again.
That's why I'm recommending to terminate these and go out start all over again.
And start over
all
again. And I think anybody who has a contract out there that is subject to modification, that we ought to have that same opportunity to look at it and say, does this make sense, or do we like how this whole game is being played?
Yeah, these are very archaic contracts. They're just boilerplate contracts as they weren't designed for these ongoing since 2016, since the Butte fire.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I recommend terminate, reboot the whole system. Yeah. Any other questions?
All right, I will open up to public comment. Any public comments on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Look for a motion.
Chair, we are going to have to pay these bills. That's the unfortunate side of this. But it doesn't mean that we are not going to have learned something in doing it. So I would move to approve these with the understanding to staff that we take a look at all of our contracts whenever they're subject to renewal or modification and be sure that we are meeting our goals.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Mr. Chair, for the basis stated by Supervisor Mills, that these bills are owed by the county. And in the spirit of doing good business, I recommend that we pay these bills. Therefore, I would second this motion.
And I believe CAO has a comment.
I was just going to say, I think that's a really valid point. You know, it's interesting. Calaveras does quite a few multi-year contracts, which in my experience, you know, some counties do them, some counties don't. But the problem with not renewing contracts on an annual basis and doing these amendment styles that we have, we find unique things that you don't even realize. Because you have a contract that's gone back years and years and years that was negotiated through 5 administrations ago, and you might disagree with some of the things that we allow in it. From a perspective of good governance, I think that's something that we probably need to look at on non-routine type of things or specialized contracts like this, that really looking at how long do we want to extend these out versus have a new contract that gets negotiated on an annual or every 2-year basis. As I'm realizing that I'm not going to be here to necessarily execute that, but certainly from the summary that I'm making on recommendations for whoever comes in behind me, that's certainly something that I would put out there as a consideration, because this is a prime example of a contract that's been amended that goes back to 2016, that now we start to learn was put together as a result of the Butte fire and trying to be more responsive to recovery efforts. Well, what was needed at that point is very different than what's needed today.
Right. Yeah, good point. Very well said.
Good point. All right, I have a motion and a second. Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you very much, Board.
Moving on to item number 29 is from Environmental Health.
This item is to approve by a 4/5 vote of the board allocation from the general fund to the Animal Services Department of $26,913 for the purchase of a new, fully equipped animal control vehicle, augmenting the $42,900 already allocated in the current fiscal year budget.
Good afternoon, Brad.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to also introduce, I'm sure you've already met him, but we have Evan Jacobs, our manager for Animal Services. And yes, she just stated what the request is. We currently have 4 vehicles for use in the field. 2 of them are Ram 2500s that are kind of the classical animal control vehicles with the built-in bin behind them. They are aging. One of them is inoperable. They're 2-wheel drive. They're not very maneuverable. The one that is working is used as a backup. The 2 primary vehicles used by Animal Services are 2 Ford Rangers with a cage built in, an open cage on the back, and they're functional, but they're not ideal in the heat of the summer. And so you allocated $40,000 last fiscal year for a vehicle, and we failed to get one purchased. You reallocated it, thank you, and augmented with $2,900 for safety equipment. We've worked with Evan's expertise, with staff, what would be best for them. We got a lot of help from county administration and came up with a preferred model, a mid-size 4-wheel drive truck that has a built fabricated bin. We went off the state fleet contract. We found a Elk Grove fabricator that had the most reasonable price for the bin. And the total cost came to $69,813. So it was over the amount. And so we included with this board item kind of a detailed summary. The full cost also includes equipping it not only with safety equipment, but with computer equipment, so that the staff in the field would have contact with the data system that's in the office, which would make it more efficient for dealing with people when we're off on enforcement activities. So that's kind of the request in a nutshell. If you have any questions, we've got the expert here, and we'd be happy to try to answer any questions.
I got a couple of questions.
Okay.
I read the narrative, and it's my understanding that the back bin is going to be air conditioned.
Yes.
That's for Zoe.
Huh?
That's for Zoe.
That's for Zoe. when she gets picked up.
Zoe.
Are the other 4 trucks,
Little cage for Zoe.
are the other 4 trucks, Ben's, air conditioning? So we're moving up our grade here to accommodate the animals that we pick up and place back there so they're not in the heat of the day if they have to be back there for a while. The other question I had, which I think is probably a good thing, we're moving up here. The other thing that I have and saw in the narrative was that this is a crew cab, and the need for crew cab is, because I'm assuming none of the other trucks are all single cab. This would accommodate 4 or 5 people. Just the question as to why we're going to a crew cab instead of.
Well, while we were in the process of picking the truck, I'm not sure what the cost differential is, but we thought, well, crew cab would be nice to have a little extra room for putting gear and safety equipment back there, but I don't know.
Okay.
We're flexible to modify.
No, I just thought I'd ask the question. I thought
If I may, I believe in the state contract, the crew cab, we need a 6-foot bed to have the bin, and I believe that was the only specification to get that extra foot length for the bin. I think that's what pushed us in to get the crew cab. If it's from my recollection.
Okay. I just thought I'd ask because I saw it was in there, and I just envisioned like 4 officers getting out and
No.
and so.
It'd be mainly used for, equipment or filing system, or, if they, issue warnings or post notices, they can have a place to keep them.
All right. Thank you. Supervisor Mills, your light's on.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. The question would be, in the previous budget year, we allocated for a vehicle, it didn't happen. We allocated for a vehicle in this fiscal year, and 6 months of the fiscal year has gone by and we're still talking about it. I'm having a little trouble with that, simply because if we have said from the board, get these vehicles, get them out in the field, get them functional, what is going on that's causing this kind of delay? Second, well, let me get another half to that question. We knew we needed a box. Why are we coming to ask that question now? Why wasn't that something was asked at the beginning of the year, last year, previous discussions about this? This is not something new. The box should have been part of the discussion at the initial outset of discussing and changing a vehicle. And it just seems like it's an afterthought, and it shouldn't be that way. So I would just ask that, we think these through a little bit more. And I would also ask if there was a way, again, to put in your budget a reserve fund. So when you get to the point where you've got to replace the vehicle, you probably won't need to replace another box. Or you'd like maybe another box to go on another vehicle, but that you have the reserves already built into your budget that you can start working with right out the door.
If there's a way that we can do that, we're on board, because some of the other departments, our vehicles are aging, and like for environmental health, for instance, we spent way more money on maintenance and fixing things in these vehicles because they're getting old than we budgeted. So if we had some sort of reserve fund that we could start building towards, that would really be an ideal thing for us. And not just for an animal services, but for the other departments too.
I'm going to speak to a larger issue, and that is that this county needs to set up a vehicle services program, a vehicle fleet program, and needs to think about these things not in a department by department issue, but as an overall fleet. And where there are other agencies, other counties that probably have surplus vehicles out there, we could probably take advantage of. Let's be looking at them. I mean, I threw away 1-year-old vehicles because they were bad actors. In other words, the maintenance program. But if we're not keeping track of the maintenance on them, how do we know? And if you have vehicles that are eating you out of house and home, there has to be a threshold in policy established to say, we're not going to keep doing that anymore. And it isn't just for your department. It's all departments that work with these aging fleets. That there is a point which it doesn't make sense to put more money into it because you do not get anything back. So I would just ask us to have a little more forethought here in these discussions. And if you're thinking about needing another box beyond the one that's here, when we get into mid-year, let's talk about that. let's not wait until the year end. If it's that kind of a problem, then let's talk about it in mid-year as well. Start that conversation, please. Okay?
Any other, Supervisor Garamendi?
Thank you, guys. I can see you guys are a little concerned about this price tag also. If I'm judging body language, a little chagrin here. I believe you. It's hard for me to imagine there's not a super crew or a single cab with a 6-foot bed, but I take at your word for it. It's hard for me to imagine air conditioning, but I'm not going to be the supervisor who denied Fido his air conditioning in the back of the truck, although I don't have air conditioning in my truck. But next time, let's not do it this way. This seems rather expensive for what we're talking about, but you know, I have to have some faith in what you guys are doing, so you'll have my support. It doesn't look like you asked for cars a lot, so I don't expect I'll see this happen again.
Just for the record, my recollection does not match Evan's about the extended cab with the 6-foot thing. We'd have to go back and check, but I don't recall that, so I don't want to in any way make a statement that.
You can put your whole staff in there, Evan, with that much space.
So that's.
Make lunch easy.
Let's go to lunch.
I'd like to continue that conversation. I needed 4-wheel drive more than I needed air conditioning. So that's where I'm at. Hopefully your surplus vehicles will not sit around in your parking lots.
Yes.
If they're non-functional vehicles, they can't be repaired or they're not going to be repaired, then we need to get them off-site so that your parking lot and your work areas remain clean. Just want to make a point.
Correct. And our top agency administrative support person, Janice Harrington, is created a vehicle analysis and plan and has recommendations for which ones should be surplus, which ones should be kept. We're going to be going over that with staff this week or next week. Is kind of difficult because a lot of people are gone now. We want to go over that with staff and then put that into practice, because I know we have vehicles that need to be surplused, some with 4 flat tires in the parking lot, like you allude to. So,
yeah.
Yes.
The Supervisor Oliveira.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not going to try to beat up on you, but I have a couple of questions on the bid spec sheet. It's indicating a long bed at $400 charge to a base price of $28,347 for the cab truck frame. Is that correct? 6 foot is a short bed.
It is short bed.
And it's only a $400
Yeah, we have the long bid was $400 additional dollars to the.
Is this the actual estimate you had for this unit?
Well, these were the numbers that we got off the.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Is that photograph a long bed?
That is. We asked them for a photograph. It looks like it. That looks awful short to me, but.
I think this is the Chevy Colorado, so I believe it is a 6-foot bed.
Okay, and you're not buying it. Are you buying a Chevy
6-foot
Colorado?
standard. Say that again, sir.
Huh?
I couldn't hear you. Could you say that?
Are you buying a Chevy Colorado?
Yes, that's what the vehicle.
So this is a bid sheet, spec sheet for the photograph of the vehicle that
Yes, sir.
we're talking about. And the $21,000 price tag for the bin for the truck, is that bought through a utility trailer type operation that they make a variety of these to fit the trucks?
Yes. Yeah, Diamond Truck Body Manufacturing in Stockton.
Okay, but they actually make this type of application.
Yes.
So they're not just making a custom box for us.
Right, that's correct.
Right.
They have to make these things, that's the way, you know, we've looked at what other animal services operations around the state are. This is a pretty good deal compared to what some places are paying. At one point, we looked at getting one made up in Washington State, but then by the time we figured travel and getting it down here, Evan found this one nearby that was a cheaper price actually than what we've been looking at. So we thought it was a pretty good deal.
Okay, you thought this was a good deal at $70,000?
Comparatively.
That's what I'm asking.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
I know these things get expensive. Oh, Oh, I see the expense sheet for your computer equipment and other things. Yeah, I understand that these can get expensive. What are you going to do about the trucks that don't have air conditioning?
We think they're usable. We think air conditioning, well, I should let Evan answer that. Go ahead, answer.
Well, here's my concern. I wish we had the funding to put air conditioning in all the units. And we're getting to the point of which truck do you send to pick up an animal?
Yeah.
I have a wife that's very, very animal aware.
Yes.
So, and I have a concern about putting people in the middle of summer in a hot truck, especially putting pets in a hot truck. So I think we're stepping in the right direction with the air conditioning. I just wish we had the funding to put air conditioning in all of them.
Right.
So.
And we agree. Most of the year, the CADE works okay. In the summer, you can take short trips and get them in, but it's still not ideal far.
I would hope you use the non-air conditioned for the short trips.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor, excuse me, CEO Lutz, you had a comment?
Yeah, I was just going to add to the comment. I think, I mean, this is a high price tag, but I would add that it is basically a fully delivered vehicle. One of the, like, in the last meeting, the Sheriff's Department, if the board recalls, brought a few, I think they bought four trucks. The price that was approved for that, for those vehicles, was the truck. It didn't include all of the outfitting. Roughly 10,000 of this is in equipment outfitting, and then you add the bin cost, which unfortunately is expensive. Yes, the air conditioning's an upcharge. You can argue the value of that piece. But I would say that when you factor in what it costs to equip our sheriff vehicles as well, you're easily approaching this cost, if not in some cases going over, depending on what those specifications are. It's unfortunate. There's a lot of equipment that goes into these vehicles. But I would say that while high, this isn't that unreasonable in terms of a fully equipped car ready to hit the road when it arrives.
CEO, to your point, though, is that there are some counties that have mileage thresholds built into their fleet. And when they reach 100,000 miles, they surplus them whether they're functional or not. In most cases, they're very functional. I would recommend strongly to staff that we start snooping around within other counties and other agencies for I consider a lower mileage fleet vehicle that would still meet our requirements that we could get a hold of, rather than constantly be looking at new vehicles, especially where we're trying to augment. So your next fleet vehicle, for instance, might be an 80,000 mile Colorado from Placer County, because they just have said that's our number and it's out of here. So other counties have these different limits. I'd like to know if there's, these come up on surplus auctions all the time. I know they do. So I would just have us start looking at those as being an option as well, to augment the additional. Make this your primary vehicle. I understand that. But for any others, to give you that, because you need to get a turnaround here. You've got a number of vehicles that are deficient. And that would be one way to do it without expending a whole lot of capital to get your fleet built back to where it should be.
One more question, Mr. Chair. Gentlemen, the bin as it's related, we can actually reuse those if you surplus a truck out?
Yes,
Wouldn't
sir.
that be a less expensive way to go?
Yes, sir.
So what's the service life of a bin, if you will?
I currently don't know, but I believe since our vehicles are 20 years old, that the vehicles on the Dodge Ram have pretty much hit their threshold. But I couldn't give you an answer of how long they would last.
But in this particular application with this new vehicle, we can actually take this bin off.
Yes.
And put it on a new chassis.
Yes, sir.
And pick up.
Yeah,
And that would save that cost of the original price.
correct.
To an extent, as long as it's got serviceable life.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Barring any damage, service life of 40 years is not unusual on a box
Right.
of this type, provided that it is aluminum framed and not metal framed.
Correct. And as long as you're not hauling bulls.
That's what I mean, barring damage.
Does the box, it has air conditioning, does it have a heater also?
No, we went with just the air conditioning unit on this one. The heat
Okay.
combo was a little more.
Thought I'd ask, gets cold up country. Surround sound, stereo speaker, a little movie. Okay, we'll open up to public comments. Are there public questions or comments on this item? Rebecca, we'll go with staff first.
I just wanted to, on your question about building reserves into budgets, so the general fund has a operating reserve, it's called the contingency. And we generally strive to have departments not have contingents within their operating budgets because then honestly we would all have contingents in our operating budgets and we would all find very helpful uses for them. But when we have undergone significant uncertainty in revenue, it has been absolutely a no-no by the board and administration to do that. So instead we look for departments to have a strategic plan for capital replacement and have that discussion as part of the budget and make sure that they build full cost of replacement in. The other thing is, per governmental accounting standards board and just generally acceptable accounting principles, when you're looking at a fixed asset, it's all including the upfitting. So what my office especially would be concerned with is if a department did have some sort of a reserve sitting in their budget and they had the money for the vehicle, and then they used some line item to purchase all of the other upfitting, what ends up happening, and we have seen this, all the bills come in and we find out it's for the vehicle, and that is all going to be put together, which means that whole thing is a capital asset, not just the vehicle and then everything else is an expense. It's the whole kit and caboodle. So we don't break those apart, and that is a requirement under our governmental accounting practices. So that's why we really try to work with departments to make sure they're budgeting the whole thing as capital. And remember, only the Board of Supervisors can approve capital purchases. So we do really try to make sure departments understand they can't break apart purchases to try to avoid coming back to the Board of Supervisors. So it's not ideal, but that is the reality. And in terms of the cost, Tim is absolutely correct. This is the same issue we have in the Sheriff's Department. They get very expensive. The cost of the Ford Taurus is not that much. The cost of a fully upfitted Ford Taurus or Explorer or whatever it is gets very expensive. We saw this happen with probation. We've seen it happen with Health and Human Services, and it's going to be no different with Animal Services. So unfortunately, with all of the upfitting that has to happen on any of those vehicles, it increases the price drastically, and that's not uncommon.
Thank you, Rebecca. Public comments, questions?
I just had a question for to satisfy my interest. Animal control, they pick up live animals. Do they also pick up dead animals?
No, ma'am, we do not.
No? And whose responsibility is it to pick up dead animals?
If it's in the roadway.
Can you come to the microphone?
Yes, sir. If it's in the roadway, Caltrans or someone from the county will pick it up, but if it's in your property, it is the property owner's responsibility.
Thank you.
Any other public comments, questions?
Do FEMA camps have air conditioning? I don't know. But I do know this. The higher standards that you require the government to have, the higher standards you require other people to have, just regular people. And the other day I was piling brush and burning it, and being an older person, I would have gotten fired for that kind of job, but I could stop and take a rest, and I got it burned. But the entire time, I was sweating. A dog pants, and that is his kind of sweating. And when you see a dog panting, he's not necessarily in distress. I wasn't in distress. It was probably good for me to be sweating. I think that sometimes you raise these standards so high that it impacts the regular people out there who can't afford to have air conditioning for their dog, let alone their own car or truck. And so I personally feel that this is just going out there a little too far. And unless you've got enough money to put air conditioning in all the trucks, I don't think you should have air conditioning in one. The Sheriff's Department lost a dog not too many years ago, and I don't remember the details, but you guys might. And that should put something on it too. When you have an animal in a vehicle, you have to be cognizant of what's going on. And a lot of other people who don't have dogs, who don't care to have dogs, go around telling other people who have dogs how they should have their dogs. And if you could ask the dog what he wants to be doing, does he want to be with you most of the time, or does he want to be at home most of the time? I think the dog would tell you that he wants to be with you. There's a certain kind of training for dogs that you're to be with your dog in order to have the kind of relationship that you need. So I know it's not going to make any difference, but that's my opinion.
Other public comments? Seeing none, we'll close public comments. Bring it back to the board. Look for a motion.
Chair, I'll make that motion with a comment, and I appreciate our auditor's comments as well. I think that there needs to be a more robust discussion on these reserves with each department. They need to understand their role and assuring that we are not surprised with things that they are needing. And that's, even in the 2 years that I've been on this board, there's been too many surprises. So I'm just asking we have a little more forethought in our planning, and especially with CIP money, that we be thinking a little bit more longer term than just what is next year and what's the next year's budget. Let's talk about 5 years. Let's talk about what that looks like. Okay? And that's my motion, is to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chair.
A motion by Supervisor Mills, a second by Oliveira. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Moving on to item number 30 from the Administrative Office.
This item is to adopt a resolution continuing emergency contracting procedures pursuant to Public Contract Code, Chapter 2.5, Section 22050, for emergency repair work necessary to skylight structures to the roofs of Building A, D, and E of the county government campus.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Bonnie Rich Administration. So we have completed phase 1 of the repairs required for the skylight structures on buildings A, D, and E. We are in the process of reviewing invoicing for the work that's been done and preparing payment to the contractor less retention. Since we are not going to move forward with plans and specs for a complete tear-off and rebuild, saving significant money there, what we are going to do next in preparation of phase 2 is ask the roofing contractor to come out and with the facilities manager and our project manager do a final inspection of the downspouts on those facilities and those flat areas to determine what repairs or downspout dry rot work may need to be done. That was not contemplated initially. If the board recalled, we were going to do phase 2 as a temporary seal. We're looking at a more permanent seal. With that, we fully expect to have some additional repairs to, again, the downspouts and flat areas of the roof. So we will be moving forward with that, and we'll hopefully have an update for the board at its first meeting in January of what those costs would be for those repairs. It is looking like we will not be able to, per manufacturer specifications on the ceiling, do that work until we have a little warmer weather. So while we can work on the repairs to the downspouts and the flat areas and any soft areas of the roof, we will not do the seal coating, probably not until March, maybe even April. And that's all I have.
Any board questions? Supervisor Mills?
Bonnie, I don't know if I'd asked this question before, but the GAF base and top coats, do they have a life cycle warranty of, do you recall what that is?
I'm sorry, for the seal coating?
Yes.
My understanding that it is a 20 to 30-year warranty, but they're fully expecting, they guarantee it for no less than 10. If you'll recall, last time we came before the board, one of the things that our facilities manager, Patrick, wanted to remind the board of is while we're not looking at the full 50-year warranty for, composite roof or to replace all of that, we will need to budget every 10 years for a new seal coating, but that'll be far less expensive than doing a complete tear-off.
Okay, thank you.
Any other board comments? Questions? We'll open up for public comments, questions. If not, I'll bring it back to the board. This is a resolution, so I will need a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion by Supervisor Oliveira.
Second.
Second by Supervisor Mills. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Moving on to supervisors' announcements. Madam Clerk.
In compliance with AB 1234, chaptered as Government Code Section 53232.3D, board members shall provide brief reports on meetings they attended at the expense of the local agency at the next regular meeting of the legislative body. This report is required to include meetings attended for which there has been expense reimbursement, such as mileage, meals, lodging, etc., but may also, at the board member's discretion, include any other meeting attended by the supervisor on behalf of the county.
We will start with Supervisor Clapp.
I believe I reported Area 12 at the last meeting. I'm not sure, but just in case I did, I was at Area 12, first of the month. And I'd like to thank all the people on the board here and staff and everything for the last 2 years. I enjoyed it, and so I appreciate that. So thank all you guys.
Supervisor Mills, your light's on. We'll go with you next.
I might be stealing Supervisor Gamandy's thunder, but we managed to go to Sacramento to Mary Pitto's retirement party. Got to meet a lot of people there that we already knew. Good event, and good to see Mary is finally giving up her public service. And that's all I have to report.
Supervisor Oliveira.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the 14th, I did attend a meeting of the JPA Child Support Organization. That is going very fine. I believe Supervisor Tofinelli also attended that meeting. This is our last meeting as Mike Oliveira supervisor. Thank you very much, folks. It's been a neat ride in Disneyland, I must say. I've learned a lot, made a lot of good friends, made a couple enemies. There's some bridges I need to fix out there with the public regarding some periodicals, but bottom line is, I'm going to miss all you folks. I'll be around, but you guys and gals are good. You're good for the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Oliveira. We'll miss you. Supervisor Garamendi.
We will, Mr. Mike. County didn't pay for these meetings, but good to note, RCRC board meeting on the 5th. I too, as Supervisor Mills pointed out, attended Mary Pitto's retirement, also attended the retirement of Jim Brennan from the Sierra Nevada Conservancy, which has been so generous to our county over time. And then a lot of internal meetings, but also attended the Fair Board meeting on Wednesday the 12th, where I got the honor of swearing in the new Fair Board members. I'm also authorized to do marriages if anybody's ever. So these are certain skills you acquire once you're elected. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, the money's in the divorces, not the marriages. I attended Mountain Valley EMS meeting on Wednesday. I also had the privilege of swearing in 3 new members to the Jenny Lynn Veterans Memorial District Board. I've been involved in that board for many, many years. And I also was at the Central Sierra Child Support Services Agency meeting with Mike. That was on Friday. That is a good JPA. It's well run. And I have what was the Johnny Cash thing with the envelope? I have this, I think, announcement that I need to announce that was foretold to me, that the winter solstice is on Friday. That is the longest night of the year and the shortest day of the year. So every day going forward from there on will be 1 minute longer, and the nights will be 1 minute shorter. So that's all. That's what I have for my report. CAO LEDs. Nothing. Megan? Madam Clerk, I knew you would have something.
I do. I just have a couple of things. First of all, I would like to thank Supervisors Oliveira and Clapp for their terms, and working with them has been a pleasure. I'd like to bid good greetings and best wishes to CAO Lutz in his new endeavor. I'd like to thank Amy Yepes and Gina Cathan for helping to prepare today's reception. I could not have done it without their help, and I really appreciated it. And I just wanted to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we will go to closed session. Yes, why don't you announce closed session, Madam Clerk?
Item 31 is a conference with real property negotiator pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8, instruction to negotiator regarding potential purchase, price, and terms of payment for the following property affected by the Hogan Dam Road over Bear Creek Low Water Crossing conversion. New Bridge project. Agency negotiator is Stephen Harris of Overland Pacific and Cutler LLC. Negotiating party and respective property APN, Charles Jr. and Rosario Pineda, as to APN 050-008-042.
Is there any public comments on this one? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Item 32, conference with real property negotiator pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8, instruction to negotiator regarding potential purchase, price, and terms of payment for the following property affected by the Shads Road over Forest Creek Bridge project. Agency negotiator Stephen Harris of Overland Pacific and Cutler LLC. Negotiating party and respective property APN, Sierra Pacific Industries, a California corporation, as to 04-007-007.
Any public comments on this item? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Item 33 is conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, initiation of litigation, 2 cases pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D4. Please note that 1 case was pulled off agenda and will be re-agendized in January.
Any public comments on this item? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Item 34, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation, 2 cases pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2.
Any public comments? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
And item 35, public employee appointment pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B1, Title, County Council.
Any public comments on this item? Seeing none, we will go to closed session.